Chapter 1099. Not all cultivators could step into the special realm of titled deities. However, those who could step into this realm were definitely extremely powerful. They could even fight against the main deities. The most powerful thing about titled deities was that they were given the power of the title by the heavens. For many people, it was rare to have a heavenly title. Moreover, any god with a heaven-level title could basically fight against a lord or even overpower a lord. As for those who had a supreme title, their combat power was unimaginable because they were very rare in the world. When the two young men of the White Phoenix clan heard this, their expressions changed greatly. However, it was too late for regrets. One of them was already standing in the arena. His face was pale and his legs were trembling. Supreme title? How could they fight against him? The life and death contract has been set, and you've entered the arena. Now, you can't blame me, right? Jiang Qin joked. You can't kill me. The White Phoenix clan is not afraid of the Jiang clan. If you kill me, it will start a war between our clans. The young man of the White Phoenix clan was so scared that his lips were trembling. Not afraid of the Jiang clan? Then what's your situation now? Are you afraid of me? Jiang Qin raised his eyebrows. He stepped forward and punched out with an ordinary punch. The next moment, under everyone's shocked gaze, the ordinary punch shattered the young man of the White Phoenix clan. Not even a trace of his soul was left. He's too powerful. He can't be defeated by force. The supreme title. In the distance, a group of people exclaimed and felt pity for the young man of the White Phoenix clan. Such a good young man, in the prime of his life. Why couldn't he think it through? At this moment, the remaining young man was standing in front of the arena. He was covered in cold sweat and didn't know whether to leave or enter the arena. This was because once he entered the arena, he would definitely die. However, the contract had been set. He couldn't leave. Let me go. After a few breaths, the young man of the White Phoenix clan was completely flustered. He had a mental breakdown and knelt down directly. He was really afraid of death. He was even more afraid that he would be devoured by Jiang Qin after he died. After all, the Jiang clan was famous for their gluttony. Why are you kneeling? Jiang Qin chuckled. I don't like killing. In Jiang Qin's opinion, killing one was sufficient to establish his might, and it was sufficient to deter those inner court disciples. In this way, it would save him a lot of trouble, and it would save him the trouble of those inner court disciples coming to find trouble with him time and time again. Therefore, to Jiang Qin, it did not matter if he killed the remaining youth from the White Phoenix race or not. However, what Jiang Qin did not expect was that this young man from the White Phoenix race did not care about his reputation at all. In front of so many people, he directly knelt down. Go back and tell that group of people from the inner courtyard not to provoke me in the future, Jiang Qin whispered as he walked down the arena. He didn't even look at the young man from the White Lawn race. The young man from the White Phoenix clan was pale, but he secretly rejoiced. He felt that his kneeling was worth it. Otherwise, he might be killed. However, in reality, his life was nothing to Jiang Qin. In fact, to kill him, Jiang Qin felt that it was a waste of energy. This guy from the White Phoenix clan, he really embarrassed his clan? Can he not kneel down? The life and death duel contract has already been set. At this moment, near the stone door, a group of inner court disciples gathered together. Some of them looked at Jiang Qin's back as he left. Their eyes flashed with coldness, and in the depths of their pupils, there was greed. The title of supremacy, Fete, he still hasn't grown up. Treasures aroused the envy of others. Many people sneered in their hearts. They all knew that if the Jiang clan did not send experts to protect Jiang Qin, then, in no time, Jiang Qin would definitely die. This was because the title of supremacy was too dreamy. It was something that many cultivators would do anything to obtain. Everyone knew that as long as the news of Jiang Qin having the title of supremacy spread, in no time, a group of powerful figures would come. At that time, Jiang Qin would definitely lose his title of supremacy. He might even lose his life. There are thousands of inner court disciples in the Dragon Soaring Academy. Don't tell me those guys are not interested in Jiang Qin. An outer court disciple can be so arrogant. So what if he's from the Jiang clan? There are plenty of people who can deal with him. Of the two young men from the White Phoenix clan, one is dead and the other is disgraced. The White Phoenix clan will definitely not let this go. Some people were also discussing the White Phoenix clan. They even mentioned that there was a young man from the White Phoenix clan in the Dragon Soaring Academy. The young man was ranked very high in the inner court. He was only a master god, but he could fight against the divine king. Many people were thinking that the battle between Jiang Chun and the White Phoenix clan was just the beginning. Moreover, when the Jiang clan rebelled, they killed and ate many creatures. And some of those creatures did not go extinct. In the Dragon Soaring Academy, there were many clans who had a grudge against the Jiang clan. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before those people took action. The reason why they did not take action now was most likely because they were observing and probing Jiang Chen's situation. Boss, you killed that White Phoenix. The situation is a little serious. At this moment, below the first building, little Tout Eye stood in front of Jiang Chun. His eyes were filled with worry. Oh, how serious is it? Jiang Chun had an indifferent expression. After all, in the Dragon Soaring Academy, just the name of the Jiang clan alone was enough for him to do whatever he wanted. There are a total of 3 White Phoenixes in the Dragon Soaring Academy. You killed one previously, the other one knelt down and lost face. As for the last one, it's said that his battle power is not weaker than a divine king. Little Tout Eye said in a deep voice, Boss, you just became a title god. Although you have the title of supremacy, but can you challenge a divine king? When these words came out, Jiang Chun was stunned. He knew that in the Dragon Soaring Academy, not everyone was afraid of him. Some people would eventually take action. Then, at this moment, Jiang Chun should think about how to deal with a high-level cultivator. At this moment, Jiang Chun was silent. However, this was only for a few breaths of time. After a few breaths, Jiang Chun suddenly smiled, waved his hand, and said, I don't know if I can beat a divine king, but it shouldn't be a problem. After saying that, Jiang Chun got up and walked toward his room. All right, don't disturb me during this period of time if there's nothing, Jiang Chun said. Okay, boss. Little Tout Eye nodded and frowned. He thought that Jiang Chun should be afraid and was planning to hide and cultivate in seclusion during this period of time. However, Jiang Chun didn't think in that direction at all. It was because there was an abnormality in his soul world. If he left now, it was a big matter. Oh my God, I almost forgot about you. In the room, Jiang Chun looked inside his soul world. In a corner, the sky-burying coffin stood there quietly. The internet would be disconnected in the afternoon, but today's 10 would not be less. It would definitely be full before midnight. Chapter 1100. When he left the 6 realms, Jiang Chun had brought the sky-burying coffin with him, and the 9th princess was hidden in the sky-burying coffin. However, after arriving at the great wide world, Jiang Chun had forgotten about this matter. After such a long time, the 9th princess was almost suffocated. Master, are you really going to let me hide in the sky-burying coffin for the rest of my life? The 9th princess said angrily, and the coffin lid was knocked on with a rumbling sound. Jiang Chun looked embarrassed. He had suddenly thought of this matter today. Otherwise, the 9th princess would probably be locked up for a while. However, Jiang Chun did not dare to open the sky-burying coffin easily. After all, the power in Huang Tian's body had spirituality. Once it sensed the aura of the great wide world, it would wake up. Jiang Chun was worried that if Huang Tian's power woke up here and rushed into his body, his identity would be exposed. Moreover, Jiang Chun had the all-changing heavenly lamp and 3 wisps of chaotic aura, so he could change his origin aura. However, what did the 9th princess have? After she came out, her aura was incompatible with the great wide world, so it was easy for people to guess her identity. Let me think of a way. I'm afraid there's a problem with letting you out like this. Jiang Chun said softly and asked, How's Huang Tian's body? Is there any movement? No movement, the 9th princess said, seeming a little annoyed. After snorting a few times, she said, Master, you have to think of a way quickly. Staying here is like being in prison. I'm thinking about it, Jiang Chun muttered. And then his gaze fell on the three wisps of chaotic aura. The all-changing heavenly lamp was his Taoist soul, so he naturally could not give it to the ninth princess. Then, only these three wisps of chaotic aura could help the ninth princess hide her aura. Jiang Chun rubbed his hands and asked, I say, 3 big shots. Can you help me change this disciple's aura? What are you talking about with the 3 strands of chaos chi? Can she really communicate with you? The ninth princess said angrily, as if she was looking at an idiot. However, in the next moment, something that shocked the ninth princess happened. A wisp of chaotic chi flickered, and wisps of divine light entered the sky-burying coffin. After several breaths of time, the ninth princess could feel that her source aura had changed. Hiss! At this moment, the ninth princess sucked in a breath of cold air and directly flew out of the sky-burying coffin. She turned into her soul state and appeared in Jiang Chen's spiritual world. Then, she stared at the 3 strands of chaotic energy, her face turning pale. These 3 wisps of chaotic aura have gained sentience? The ninth princess exclaimed. You can understand it that way. Jiang Chen also smiled bitterly, not knowing whether this was a blessing or a curse. There had always been many legends about chaos, but most of them were ominous. It was as if they were swallowed by chaos and disappeared in it, or they were assimilated by chaos and turned into another kind of living being. The ninth princess had always thought that those were all legends and could not be trusted. But now that she saw the 3 wisps of chaotic aura in Jiang Chen's body, she suddenly understood that some legends were not necessarily false. You're really magnanimous to nurture chaotic aura in your own spiritual world, the ninth princess said in a low voice. Don't you know that this thing is dangerous even if it's contaminated, let alone nurturing it? I know. Jiang Chen sighed. Back then, because of some things, these 3 wisps of chaotic aura entered my body. Now, they seem to have settled down, and I can't chase them away. And you also saw that they have gained sentience. Although they can't open their mouths to speak yet. I think it's about time. Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. The ninth princess's pupils suddenly shrank when she heard that. Then, she formed a seal with both hands and flew out of Jiang Chen's spiritual world. She did not want to stay there any longer, especially facing those 3 wisps of chaotic aura that had gained sentience. I say, what do you plan to do next? Jiang Chen asked after coming out of the spiritual world. However, the ninth princess did not answer. Instead, she stared into Jiang Chen's eyes, as if looking for something. After a few breaths, the ninth princess frowned and shook her head. Looking at you, it doesn't look like you've been invaded by chaos. I know some legends about the primal chaos, and all of them are ominous, but I feel like the 3 wisps of primal chaos in my body are okay. At least they have been helping me, and they haven't harmed me, Jiang Chen said. What if? The ninth princess said unhappily. She touched her chin and pondered for a while. Then, she said, we have to think of a way. There's no hurry, Jiang Chen said. Then, he patted the ninth princess's shoulder and said, now, it's time to discuss your matter. Do you think it's appropriate for an emperor like you to suddenly appear in Dragon Soaring Academy? Jiang Chen asked. Although there were many emperors in the Great Thousand World, there were not many emperors walking around the world. If the ninth princess suddenly appeared in front of the world, what should he do? At least he had to make up an identity, right? At the thought of this, Jiang Chen's eyes lit up. He thought to himself, the heavens are helping me. Previously, he had just killed a young man from the White Phoenix race. The other young man from the White Phoenix race in the inner court would definitely not let Jiang Chen go. Sooner or later, he would come looking for trouble. Moreover, Jiang Chen also knew that his sovereign title was troublesome. If no one protected him, he would have a hard time in the future. Now, the ninth princess just happened to appear. Jiang Chen thought for a while and said, announce to the public that you're my maid. Remember, you're from the Southern Star region, Jiang clan. Oh, maid? The ninth princess had a strange look on her face. Suddenly, she walked in front of Jiang Chen and put her slender hand on Jiang Chen's chest. She said softly, then do I still have to serve you in bed? Be serious. Jiang Chen's face darkened. He thought to himself, What kind of disciples are you taking in? Do you only think about these things all day long? I can't always stay by your side. I have to go to the ancestral realm. The ninth princess looked serious and said, I'll leave when you meet up with Nyenchanga. The ancestral realm? You know the direction? Jiangchen asked curiously. Why are you going to the ancestral realm? Isn't it sealed? And there's a curse. Of course, I'm going to war. The ninth princess sighed. As an emperor, I have to bear some missions. Although the 6 realms have been destroyed, the ancestral realm still exists. The real battle has never stopped. Those ancestors, have they always been fighting in the ancestral realm? Jiangchen asked. They've always been fighting since ancient times. The ancestral realm is so big that you can't imagine it. And the battle there isn't going to end in a day. The ninth princess looked up into the distance and said softly, When you become an emperor one day, you'll know how cruel the battle in the ancestral realm is. The ninth princess suddenly smiled and held Jiangchen's arm. She said softly, Master, I think that as a maid, I still have to serve you in bed. Chapter 1101. Jiangchen felt a headache coming on. This ninth princess was an empress, and she was also a reincarnation traveler. Why was she like Bai Fengyu's apprentices? After messing around with the ninth princess for a while, Jiangchen began to cultivate and was too lazy to care about her. While Jiangchen was cultivating, the fire dragon was discussing with a group of elders in the inner court. Jiangchen is extraordinary. He has the title of supremacy, and his status in the Jiang clan is definitely not low. If we can borrow Jiangchen's hand this time and build a good relationship with the Jiang clan, we can consolidate the position of our dragon clan in the Great Thousand World, the fire dragon said. However, although the group of elders in the inner court nodded in agreement with the fire dragon, they did not want to give the ancestral dragon's inheritance to Jiangchen. After all, the dragon clan was the dragon clan, and the Jiang clan was considered an outsider clan. How could the ancestral dragon's inheritance be given to other clans so easily? The reason why they spread the news of the ancestral dragon's inheritance was that the Dragon Soaring Academy wanted to use this as a gimmick to recruit more disciples. This way, they would be able to collect more benefits. In fact, from the beginning, the Dragon Soaring Academy did not intend to give the ancestral dragon's inheritance to other clans. However, no one had expected that the matter this time would be so big that even the members of the Jiang clan had come. My head hurts. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have spread the news of the ancestral dragon's inheritance. The great elder of the inner court held his head with a worried expression. Great elder, we can't blame you for this. After all, the fire dragon clan is too poor and can only barely open an academy to earn some money. Another elder smiled bitterly. The dragon clan was divided into several clans, and the fire dragon clan was not only small in territory among all the dragon clans, but also had a weak foundation. Without the support of the Dragon Soaring Academy, the fire dragon clan would be starving. It's because he has the title of supremacy that we can't give him the ancestral dragon's inheritance. At that moment, the third elder of the inner domain rose to his feet and said with a serious expression, I'm sure that many people already know that he has the title of Paragon. Now, I'm afraid that it won't be long before experts arrive, perhaps even emperors. At that time, he will definitely not be able to keep his title of supremacy, and he might even lose his life. In that case, wouldn't it be a waste to give the ancestral dragon's inheritance to Jiangchen? We could protect him. In the future, if the Fire Dragon clan is in trouble, we can ask the Jiang clan to help us, the Fire Dragon said. However, was the Jiang clan really that easy to talk to? In fact, everyone present knew that the Jiang clan was too hard to please. With all kinds of concerns, the group fell silent for a moment. Let's observe him for a bit first. If he can survive, we can give him the ancestral dragon's inheritance in exchange for our dragon clan and Jiang clan's friendship. After a dozen or so breaths of time, the inner courtyard's great elder spoke, finally coming to a decision. At the same time, in the inner courtyard, the news of the White Luan disciple had spread. One was killed, and the other was forced to kneel. The White Luan clan had lost all face. I must wash away this humiliation. At that moment, A white-haired young man walked out of the inner courtyard's cultivation room. When everyone heard this, they turned their heads to look. Their expressions immediately became strange. That was because this person was the strongest person among the 3 white Luans in the inner courtyard. Bailing you broke through? Someone stared at the white Luan. From the aura emitted from his body, one could tell that he had broken through to the Divine King realm after coming out of seclusion. I just broke through a few days ago. Bailing Yu nodded, and a fierce look flashed across his eyes. He said, "How dare they bully my white Luan clan? So what if they're from the Jiang clan? How can my Luan clan be afraid of the Jiang clan?" Bailing Yu, that kid from the Jiang clan has the title of Paragon. Someone said, perhaps even a divine king might not be his match. Yeah, the title of Paragon is rare throughout history. His combat power is terrifying and far surpasses ordinary people. Instantly, many people started to discuss Jiang Qin's Paragon title again. However, to Bai Lingyu, the title of Paragon was indeed terrifying. But now, he was already a divine king, and Jiang Chun was just a small cultivator who had just become a titled deity. So what if he had the title of Paragon? Everything he has will be mine, Bai Lingyu thought to himself, and a greedy look flashed across his eyes. He had thought it through clearly and beautifully. After killing Jiang Chun and taking away the title of Paragon, even if the Jiang clan wanted to take revenge, so what? When he had the title of Paragon, not only the White Luan clan, but all the other 9 Luan clans would protect him. By then, he would be the next candidate for the leader of the 9 Luan clans. The title of Paragon. I must have it. Finally, Bai Lingyu set off. He walked out of the inner courtyard and went directly to building number 1. However, when he arrived at building number 1, before he could say anything, he bumped into the 9th princess who was basking in the sun downstairs. The 9th princess was really bored. As an emperor, she had not taken that step for so many years. She felt that she might as well stay in the emperor realm for the rest of her life. There was nothing else she wanted to pursue. Therefore, when she was bored, she was more willing to take a break. At this moment, when Bai Lingyu saw the 9th princess, he was first stunned by her appearance. But then, he was shocked. It was because he walked in front of the 9th princess, as if he wanted to show how extraordinary he was, that he was slightly more pretentious. He looked at the 9th princess seriously and asked, "Miss, may I ask if Jiang Qin of the Jiang clan is here?" "Oh, why are you looking for him?" The 9th princess asked. "The Jiang clan has done all kinds of evil. I am here today to eliminate them," Bai Lingyu said seriously. You want to kill Jiang Qin?" The 9th princess had a strange expression. She slowly stood up and patted Bai Lingyu's shoulder. Her mouth revealed a trace of ridicule as she asked, "Do you know who I am?" "Miss, you must be a new student, right? I heard that this year's new students have been bullied by Jiang Chun. Don't worry, after today, not to mention this Dragon Soaring Academy, even the world will no longer have a person called Jiang Chun," Bai Lingyu said, full of confidence. However, the 9th princess raised her eyebrows and said, "I am not a new student. I am his maid." Ah! At this moment, Bai Lingyu was a little confused. A trace of jealousy and envy appeared in his heart. Such a beautiful girl was actually Jiang Qin's maid? "Speaking of which, you said in front of me that you want to kill my master. You are really bold." The 9th princess narrowed her eyes, and then the aura on her body suddenly exploded. Buzz! For a moment, Bai Lingyu felt that he was in hell. Endless darkness shrouded him, and even breathing was extremely difficult. Emperor? After regaining his senses, Bai Lingyu realized that he had been suppressed to the ground by the 9th princess's aura. Chapter 1102. Bai Lingyu had just broken through to the godly king realm. He was in high spirits, but who would have thought that he would have a bad start? "Someone like you wants to kill my master?" The 9th princess looked at him with disdain. She knew Jiang Qin's strength very well. Although he had just become a titled deity, he had shed too many spiritual bodies. His combat power could not be judged by the eyes of ordinary people. As for Bai Lingyu, if he really fought against Jiang Qin, Jiang Chun would probably be able to suppress him in less than 3 or 5 rounds. The maids of the Jiang clan are all emperors. At this moment, Bai Lingyu was very shocked. He could not believe that a maid had such strength. Those who kill will always be killed. Do you understand this principle? The ninth princess asked with a smile. As soon as these words came out, Bai Lingyu's pupils suddenly shrank, and his heart turned ice cold. He, a godly king, was like an ant in front of an emperor. Not to mention resisting, he did not even have the strength to stand. Now, with just a thought from the ninth princess, he would die. Do you know who I am? I am a disciple of the White Phoenix clan. Although your cultivation is high, you are just a maid. The difference in status is huge. If you kill me, the Jiang clan will not be able to protect you. Bai Lingyu threatened. At this moment, he had no other choice but to use the White Phoenix clan to intimidate the ninth princess. Unfortunately, his idea was a little stupid. As an emperor, even if he was born poor and had no status, his strength was there for all to see. Such a person, no matter where he went, the world would have to respect him. The ninth princess was also a little confused. She had lived for so long, but she had never seen a godly king dare to intimidate an emperor. Not to mention you, a mere godly king. Even if your ancestors came, they would not dare to talk to me like this, the ninth princess said coldly. At the same time, the ninth princess also thought of something. When the ancestral realm was destroyed, the 9 Phoenix clans had a great contribution. Thinking of this, the ninth princess suddenly laughed. Her smile was very pure and gentle. She helped Bai Lingyu up and said with a smile, "Young master, I was joking with you just now. Don't take it to heart." The ninth princess's sudden change in attitude indeed caught Bai Lingyu off guard. However, Bai Lingyu also believed that she must be afraid. After all, the 9 Phoenix clans had a high status in the whole world. Even the Dragon clan had to be polite to the 9 Phoenix clans. Otherwise, the White Phoenix clan of the 9 Phoenix clans would not dare to challenge the Jiang clan. If you want to kill my master, I will definitely stop you. Don't you think so? That is reasonable, right? The ninth princess said, "So, why don't you call your elders over? When the time comes, let your elders hold me back and then you can go and kill my master. In that case, you can kill him, and I won't have to take any responsibility." Hearing this, Bai Lingyu's eyes lit up, secretly thinking that this idea was not bad. At the same time, Bai Lingyu also thought of something. After killing Jiang Chun, he would take away the title of sovereign and would definitely become the target of everyone. At that time, his Dragon Clan's elders could take care of him. Thinking of this, Bai Lingyu nodded and returned to his previous arrogant state. He said, "You're a good person. If you change your master in the future, you can come to my place." "Thank you, young master." The ninth princess smiled and bowed to Bai Lingyu. Then, Bai Lingyu left, but he did not return to the inner courtyard. Instead, he went to a secluded place and used a secret technique to contact the elders of the White Phoenix clan. "Humph! When my clan's elders arrive, I will kill him and take the title," Bai Lingyu said coldly. At this moment, the ninth princess's expression was ugly. Even she felt disgusted when she called him young master. But there was no other way. She did not like a small fish like Bai Lingyu. She wanted to catch a big fish. "Anyway, I won't go to the ancestral realm for the time being. Now I will collect some interest from your White Phoenix clan," the ninth princess said softly. Then, the ninth princess slowly lay down on the grass below building number 1. She closed her eyes and basked in the sun. However, she did not lie down for long before the ninth princess woke up with a start. This was because an extremely terrifying aura was rushing towards them at a high speed. "Emperor God!" The ninth princess narrowed her eyes but did not get up. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the horizon. After a few breaths, a middle-aged man landed in front of building number 1. After looking around, a hint of greed flashed in his eyes. He stepped into building number 1. "Are you looking down on me?" The ninth princess' voice suddenly sounded. She stared at the middle-aged man and said disdainfully, "What do you want to do here, a mere emperor god?" The moment he said that, the middle-aged man was truly frightened. That was because with the ninth princess cultivation, the middle-aged man could not detect her at all. But now, when he suddenly spoke, anyone would be shocked. Senior, at that moment, the middle-aged man finally saw the ninth princess. His expression changed slightly, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Senior, are you also here for the honorable titles? Seeing that the ninth princess did not speak, the man asked tentatively. At the same time, he cupped his hands and bowed. Since Senior wants it, I will take my leave. Oh, it seems that the news of Master's honorable title has been spread, the ninth princess thought to herself. Then, she waved at the middle-aged man and said, Boy, come here. Senior, what's the matter? The middle-aged man's chest and back were covered in cold sweat. He knew that the beautiful woman in front of him was most likely an emperor. He wanted to retreat, but in front of an emperor, how could he, Emperor God, have the chance to retreat? Helpless, he could only obediently go to the ninth princess' side. Watch this place carefully. It won't be long before the experts of the White Phoenix clan come. At that time, help me send them away. The ninth princess yawned, but a cold light flashed in her eyes. She said, Be obedient. Otherwise, you know what will happen. Yes. I will listen to Senior. The middle-aged man did not dare to say no. Then, the ninth princess closed her eyes and leisurely continued to bask in the sun. The middle-aged man did not even dare to blink. He stared at the surroundings of the first building, afraid that he would miss someone. Half a day later, the ninth princess' eyelids trembled slightly. She sensed that someone was coming. Moreover, the person who came this time did not have a high cultivation. He should have just become an emperor god. Senior, it doesn't seem to be from the White Phoenix clan. The middle-aged man also noticed. He looked into the distance and saw a stream of light rushing towards them. When the ninth princess heard this, she waved her hand impatiently and said, With your cultivation, do you still need to tell me to send away such a small character? But you only asked me to send away the White Phoenix clan. The middle-aged man muttered, Today, no matter who it is, as long as they are Emperor God and above, if they dare to step into the first building, beat them up. If anything happens, I will take care of it for you. The ninth princess said in a low voice. She secretly thought that there was going to be a big commotion today. Rest for a while. Try to finish the remaining 5 chapters before midnight. Chapter 1103. What would come. The news of the supreme title had already spread. Not only that, an emperor god had just arrived, but now another cultivator who had just stepped into the emperor god realm had arrived. This time, the ninth princess didn't make a move. In order to save his life and curry favor with the ninth princess, the emperor god from before didn't say anything and directly suppressed the person the moment he stepped into building number 1. Then he tied the person up and threw him in front of the ninth princess. As if he was asking for credit, he lowered his head and said softly, Senior, how should we deal with this person? The ninth princess didn't even look up as she continued to bask in the sun. She waved her hand and said, Stay here and help me look after building number 1 like you. Senior, don't worry. Although I've just broken through to the Emperor God realm, my identity isn't ordinary. With me here, no one can step into building number 1, the man who had just been captured said hurriedly. At the same time, he was indirectly telling the ninth princess that his identity wasn't ordinary and that it was best to let him go. However, the ninth princess didn't seem to understand the meaning behind his words. Her eyes were still closed as the sun shone on her beautiful face. It was like a layer of divine light embellishing her beautiful face, making her look even more beautiful. Your identity isn't ordinary? Do you think I don't know you? At this moment, the first man said mockingly, You've all changed your appearance to come here, right? Your cultivation is lower than mine, and your disguise technique is so low-end. Do you think you can fool my eyes? Oh, you are? The second man was shocked. He didn't want to expose his identity. After all, he had come here to seize Jiang Chen's title. However, this was Dragon Soaring Academy. If he committed a crime in Dragon Soaring Academy, he wouldn't be able to explain it to the Dragon Clan. Moreover, Jiang Chun was from the Jiang clan. Therefore, these two people were actually in disguise. I'm Duanmu Qing. The first man secretly transmitted his voice. When he looked at the second man, there was a trace of contempt in his eyes. When the second man heard the name Duanmu Qing, his expression changed. He hurriedly lowered his head and cupped his hands in greeting. He secretly transmitted his voice. Senior Duanmu Qing, I'm Lin Xiao. Then, the two of them looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Duanmu Qing was from the Duanmu clan of the Dragon Carrier world. This family can be considered a first-rate family in the Carrying Dragon world, and Duanmu Qing is the patriarch of the Duanmu family. As for Lin Xiao, he was also the family head of the Dragon Carrier world's Lin family. The two of them were usually anxious, but they didn't expect to meet each other here. Moreover, they were all suppressed by the ninth princess. Sigh, if I had known that the emperor was here, I wouldn't have blindly come here. What a sin. If our identities were to be exposed, our respective clans would truly lose face. The two of them stood beside the ninth princess and communicated in secret. Their hearts were filled with bitterness. At the same time, they were also very curious about who the ninth princess was. As far as they knew, there were no emperor-level powerhouses in the Soaring Dragon Academy. Otherwise, why would these two god emperors rush here to commit murder? Who do you think this senior is? Did the Soaring Dragon Academy invite him to protect Jiangchen? I don't think so. The Soaring Dragon Academy was established by the Fire Dragon clan, and the relationship between the Fire Dragon clan and the human clan isn't very good. Would they put down their face and invite a human emperor? Just as the two of them were puzzled, a white mystic light streaked across the sky and quickly landed outside the first building. At the same time, Bai Lingyu also entered. Looking over, Bai Lingyu's face was filled with arrogance, and there was a white-haired old man in front of him. The two of them arrived in front of the first building. Just as they were about to speak, they discovered that Duanmu Qing and Lin Xiao had already blocked them. Senior said that no one is allowed to enter the first building today. Duanmu Qing said in a deep voice as he stared at the white-haired old man in shock. Lin Xiao didn't speak, but like Duanmu Qing, he blocked the two of them. The two of you, I advise you not to interfere with the matters of my White Luan clan. Otherwise, the white-haired old man said coldly. As he spoke, he actually revealed a trace of the aura of an emperor. At this moment, Duanmu Qing and Lin Zhao's expressions changed drastically, and they broke out in cold sweat. Although they were emperor gods and were very strong, they were no match for an emperor. At this moment, their gazes landed on the ninth princess. Ancestor, this woman is Jiang Chen's maid. He told me that you only need to pretend to stall her. Then I'll go into building number 1 and kill Jiang Chun. That's the end of the mission, Bai Lingyu said in a low voice. When the white-haired old man heard this, he couldn't help but nod. This was naturally the best way. After all, they were both emperors. Once they fought, they would either die or be injured. It wasn't easy to cultivate to the emperor level. No one wanted to die. Cough, cough. Sir, there are many people here. Why don't we fight in the sky? At this moment, the white-haired old man looked at the ninth princess and pointed at the sky. There was no trace of battle intent on his face. After all, he also thought that the ninth princess was telling the truth. She was just pretending to fight in a place where there was no one. When Jiang Chen died, it would be over. All right, then let's fight in the sky. The ninth princess slowly stood up and flew into the sky. However, before she flew into the sky, she secretly sent a voice transmission to Duanmu Qing and Lin Xiao. When I return, I don't want to see this White Luan boys. Yes, yes, yes. We'll definitely do it. Duanmu Qing and Lin Xiao immediately agreed, but they were also puzzled. They were both emperors. Why was the ninth princess so confident in herself? After a few breaths, there was a series of explosions in the clouds. The ninth princess and the White Luan clan's ancestor had clearly started fighting. From the fluctuations of the battle, it seemed that the battle was very intense. The energy from the two of them dyed the clouds in a colorful color. Didn't they say they were going to pretend to fight? The fluctuations of the battle. Could it be a battle of life and death? Bai Lingyu was puzzled. Bang! However, before he could be puzzled for long, Duan Muqing looked around and saw that there was no one around. He directly slapped out and killed Bai Lingyu. Be careful. He's from the White Luan clan. Don't leave any traces after killing him, Lin Xiao said in a low voice. His divine power turned into flames and burned Bai Lingyu to ashes. After that, the two of them stood together and looked up at the sky. No one knew what they were thinking. After half an incense stick's time, the sky suddenly turned red, and the sound of the heavens crying could be heard. Then, a rain of blood fell, accompanied by divine light and the great Tao law. An emperor has fallen. Duan Muqing was shocked. He had never thought that an emperor would die so quickly for the title of Paragon. TSK, an old White Luan. I thought it would be powerful. It really can't take a beating. After a few breaths, the ninth princess returned with a White Luan leg. Her expression was calm as she threw the White Luan leg to Duan Muqing and said, My master's appetite has been increasing recently. Deal with this old White Luan leg and send it to my master later. Chapter 1104. The ninth princess was now Jiang Qin's maiden name, so her disguise was very natural. However, to Duan Muqing and Lin Xiao, wasn't it too extravagant to use an emperor as a maid? This Jiang clan really can't be provoked. A maid is an emperor. Luckily, we didn't go overboard when we came here. Otherwise, the two of us would be dead. Duan Muqing and Lin Xiao still had lingering fear in their hearts. They obediently cooked the old White Luan's thigh and then handed it to the ninth princess. However, the ninth princess didn't want to give it to Jiang Qin at all. She basked in the sun while eating the roasted White Luan's thigh. It would be great if I could have Qilin meat. That thing is really delicious, the ninth princess muttered. Back then, before she sneaked into reincarnation, she was also an existence that looked down on a region. At that time, she was so awe-inspiring. The 100 clans were on a pilgrimage, and she was the king under the starry sky. However, there was an accident and she had no choice but to sneak into reincarnation. Fortunately, her reincarnation was successful. Now that her memory had recovered, she could be considered to have returned. However, in this life, the ninth princess didn't have much fighting spirit. She just wanted to live a good life and go to the ancestral realm to take a look. If she could help in any way, she would help. If she couldn't help, then there was nothing she could do. At this moment, Duan Muqing and Lin Xiao were standing respectfully beside the ninth princess. One was holding tea and the other was handing water. Who is that woman? Why is there an emperor suddenly? An emperor? She's still guarding the first building. Is she an expert that Jiang Qin invited? At this moment, what happened in the first building naturally couldn't escape the eyes of the upper echelons of the Dragon Soaring Academy. However, they didn't make a move because there was no emperor in the Dragon Soaring Academy. They watched quietly, wanting to see how this incident would develop. I say, what are you guys still hesitating for? The Jiang clan is so powerful. If we can use this opportunity to be on good terms with the Jiang clan, it will be a great thing for our Dragon clan. Moreover, the Qilin clan and the Phoenix clan are becoming more and more powerful. They are threatening the position of the Dragon clan in the Demon clan. The Fire Dragon had been trying to convince a group of elders in the inner courtyard these days, but to no avail. According to the elders of the inner yard, they still needed to observe for a while. Bai Lingyu went to the outer court for so long. Why hasn't he returned yet? As a god king, he should have dealt with Jiang Qin by now. Yet he still hasn't returned. Could it be? At this moment, the group of inner court disciples were all making guesses. In the end, they sent a representative over to take a look. With a single glance, all the disciples in the inner court went into an uproar. There's an emperor in charge. There are still 2 divine lords. At this moment, everyone understood in their hearts that Bai Lingyu probably wouldn't be able to return. He probably wouldn't be able to return in this lifetime. Damn it. A youngster from the Jiang clan is doing whatever he wants in Dragon Soaring Academy. Are the higher-ups of Dragon Soaring Academy not going to do anything about it? If this goes on, I'm afraid that we won't be able to make it to the Hanging Mountain this year. Many people were resentful, but more of them were helpless. One had to know that the Hanging Mountain trip was in a few days' time. It was an extremely grand banquet for Dragon Soaring Academy and even the entire dragon-carrying world. Every academy would send one person to the Hanging Mountain, and every family would also send their strongest disciples to compete in the Hanging Mountain. And those who could establish themselves in the Hanging Mountain would reap unimaginable rewards. One had to know that the Hanging Mountain was built by an almighty alchemist in ancient times, and it was once a place to store pills. Every year, the restrictions on the Hanging Mountain would be activated, and a portion of the pills hidden inside would also be released. And those pills, any one of them, if placed in the outside world, would be a treasure. There was once someone who obtained a pill. After consuming it, he broke through the shackles and soared all the way from a god-king to an emperor. Such a heaven-defying pill was simply a priceless treasure. And although there weren't many such pills in the Hanging Mountain, at least there were still some. Apart from this kind of pill, the other pills were also out of the ordinary. It could be said that the Hanging Mountain was a place of opportunity and fortune. Dragon Soaring Academy's rules have always been like this. They will only send their strongest disciples, someone said. Someone said, although Jiang Chun is a member of the Jiangs, he isn't necessarily the strongest among all the disciples. That's right. As long as you prove that you are stronger than Jiang Chun, then you will have hope of entering the Hanging Mountain. On this day, the atmosphere in the inner court was somewhat restless. A few extremely strong disciples who had been in seclusion for a long time also came out today. They inquired about Jiang Chen's deeds, and then went to the first building in groups of 3 to 5. However, just as they arrived, they saw Duanmu Qing and Lin Xiao attacking an emperor god. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the two of them suppressed the emperor god, tied him up, and threw him beside the 9th princess. Senior, another one has come. This time, it's from the spiritual snake clan. Duanmu Qing frowned and glanced at the ground beside the 9th princess. Her legs and spine were all over the ground. This was because in just half a day, a few more strong cultivators had come. Among them, there were a few from the demon clan. In the end, after being suppressed by Duanmu Qing and Lin Xiao, they were directly cooked and sent on their way. Spiritual snake clan? This thing doesn't taste good, right? The 9th princess looked disgusted. She waved her hand and said, bury it, bury it. Hiss, that's an emperor, right? Those bones beside her. No matter how I look at them, they look like the demon clan's original body. That's by Luan's thigh bone? At this moment, the group of youths was dumbfounded. They had never expected that the few people guarding this place would be so ferocious. However, this was the Dragon Academy, and they were disciples of the Dragon Academy. Naturally, they were much bolder. A young man walked out from the crowd. There was a hint of arrogance in his eyes, and his hair was colorful. It was very beautiful and also very outstanding. Seniors, I am a disciple of the Peacock Royal clan. This time, I came here to spar with Jiang Chun to prove my strength. The young man said, Peacock Royal clan? Isn't this clan going extinct? How can we meet one in such a remote place? Duanmu Qing and Lin Xiao were shocked. They knew how powerful this clan was. At some point in time, the Peacock Royal clan had dominated almost 1/3 of the Greater Thousand World. At that time, if they had not angered everyone and caused hundreds of clans to suppress them, causing the Peacock Royal clan to suffer heavy losses, the Peacock Royal clan would be like the Dragon clan today, standing at the top of the Demon clan. This clan was most famous for being warlike. Moreover, they were extremely powerful. They could be said to be valiant, especially the Peacock Royal clan's secret technique. It was said that it was related to the law of time and was extremely terrifying. There was once an ancestor of the Peacock Royal clan who had used it in a battle and almost reversed the flow of time in this world. Chapter 1105. Steam it? However, just as Duanmu Qing and Lin Xiao were shocked by the identity of the young man, the 9th princess casually waved her hand and said that she wanted to steam it. I say, you really know how to cause trouble for me. You eat everything? At that moment, Jiangchen walked down from the first building. His face darkened as he looked at the pile of bones beside the ninth princess. He really didn't know what to say to her. After all, Jiangchen was also hungry. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come out if there wasn't something important. He was probably still cultivating. Is there anything to eat? At that moment, Jiangchen touched his stomach. His face was pale and lacking blood. It was obvious that he was about to faint from hunger. He's hungry. What the F asterisk CK? Let's go. Go, go, go. We can't stay here. At that moment, the group of inner yard disciples standing outside the first building were all trembling in fear. They turned around and left without saying a word. Even the young man from the Peacock royal family trembled. Then, he turned into a ray of light and left the place as if he was escaping. Who are those two? Jiang Chun was speechless. Those people left just like that. Did they really think that he ate everything? At that moment, Jiang Chun looked at Duan Muqing and Lin Xiao. The two of them didn't feel good either. They knew that this was Jiang Chun from the Jiang clan, and the point was, he was hungry now. I've heard of the Jiang clan for a long time. Today, I've met fellow Jiang Chun. You're indeed extraordinary. With the title of Supreme, the glory of the Jiang clan is about to be reborn. The two of them kept praising Jiang Chun, afraid that he would eat them. Although Jiang Chun was hungry, he was still a human. How could he eat Duan Muqing and Lin Xiao? Moreover, everyone in the world knew that the Jiang clan would eat anything but humans. No one knew the reason for that. These two are my new followers. The ninth princess smiled. How is it? A little brother at the god emperor level is giving you enough face, right? Let's not talk about this anymore. I'm about to faint from hunger. Jiang Chun sat down on the ground. His face was pale, and there was a trace of blood on his body. Ever since the dragon vein advanced, the speed at which Jiang Chun shed his spirit body became faster and faster. As he sped up, Jiang Chen's appetite grew bigger and bigger. Right now, he felt as if his eyes were speaking and he was about to faint. Wait, leave now. At this moment, the ninth princess's expression changed drastically, and she shielded Jiang Chun behind her. At the same time, cold sweat appeared on Duan Muqing and Ling Zhao's foreheads, and their bodies were trembling. This was because an extremely terrifying aura had suddenly descended upon this place. This was definitely an emperor. Give it back. After 3 breaths of time, a young woman in white clothes appeared here. She walked directly in front of Jiang Chun and ignored the ninth princess. From the looks of it, she did not even take the ninth princess, the emperor, seriously. At this moment, Jiang Chen's eyes widened. Even his hunger was gone. He stared blankly at this young woman. Her beauty was unparalleled, and her appearance was flawless. However, it was this woman that made Jiang Chen's hair stand on end. Huang Tian. After regaining his senses, Jiang Chen's eyes widened. This was because this woman's appearance was exactly the same as Huang Tian's physical body lying in the sky-burying coffin. Moreover, this woman was only in her spiritual state, but she gave off an extraordinary feeling. Her aura was even above that of the ninth princess. Give it back. At this moment, Huang Tian did not say anything else. He stretched out his slender hand and said softly, "Give it back. Give it back." Jiang Chun was shocked. Without another word, he took out the sky-burying coffin and offered it to her with both hands. Then, the sky-burying coffin was opened, and Huang Tian's soul entered her physical body. After a few breaths, Huang Tian got up from the sky-burying coffin and stretched her legs. Then, she looked at Jiang Chun with a strange expression and asked, "Why is your cultivation so low?" After hearing this, Jiang Chun was a little confused. "My cultivation is so low. Come on, sister. How many years has it been since I reincarnated? To be able to cultivate to the level of a titled deity, this speed is already heaven-defying, okay? It shouldn't be like this. You must have had an accident." Huang Tian frowned, and there was a trace of disappointment in her eyes. "This is Huang Tian?" the ninth princess asked. Even though she was an overlord of the same level as Huang Tian, she did not dare to speak loudly. After all, Huang Tian's name had once represented heaven in the six realms. At that time, if it wasn't for the Pingtian clan sacrificing their entire clan and using their power to attack heaven, how could Huang Tian have been killed? Most importantly, Huang Tian had indeed been killed, but he had not died. A living being like him was practically undying. The two of you withdraw. The ninth princess waved her hand at Duanmu Qing and Lin Xiao. Then, she set up a spirit formation around them and isolated them from the outside world. Then, the ninth princess stared at Huang Tian for a long time. Then, she asked, "Where are Qingtian and Sangtian? An era is a different heaven. I am not from the same era as them." Huang Tian said, "They should have truly died. Can heaven be killed?" Jiang Chen asked curiously, "If one's strength is insufficient, one will naturally die." Huang Tian said. A trace of contempt appeared in his eyes. He said, "Qingtian and Sangtian, those two trash. If I hadn't died first, how could they have become heaven?" After saying that, Huang Tian suddenly pointed his finger at Jiang Chen's forehead. His action shocked the ninth princess so much that she almost attacked him. Fortunately, Huang Tian pulled his finger back in time. With a serious expression, he said, "Your soul is incomplete?" Jiang Chen was immediately alarmed upon hearing those words. Incomplete soul? That was impossible. Jiang Chen had never felt anything the entire time. His soul was also complete. How could it be incomplete? Besides, if his soul was incomplete, how could Jiang Chen still be alive? The soul was the foundation of a living being. It absolutely could not be incomplete. However, when he saw Huang Tian's expression, Jiang Chen knew that he was definitely not lying to him. In that case, what was going on with Jiang Chen's soul? Why didn't he discover it before? As expected, you were schemed against. Otherwise, you should have returned in this life. Huang Tian sighed. Then, he suddenly looked at the ninth princess and said, "Did you discover anything when you were sneaking through reincarnation?" The moment he said that, the ninth princess's expression changed slightly. Fear appeared in her eyes. She suddenly thought of something. When she was sneaking through reincarnation and walking on the empty reincarnation path, she saw several corpses. There seemed to have been a huge battle on the reincarnation path. The reincarnation path can only be entered by souls. However, I saw corpses on the reincarnation path. They were not souls. They were flesh and blood, the ninth princess said in a low voice. Furthermore, even if they were dead, the aura they exuded far surpassed that of an emperor. Chapter 1106. Very few people in the world knew about the reincarnation road. Ever since the ancient netherworld was destroyed, the reincarnation road had been severed. Only by relying on some special methods could one walk on the reincarnation road and undergo reincarnation. And now, anyone who reincarnated, unless it was the 5 Cs who took action, was considered a reincarnation stowaway. That was because the 5 Cs still had a special reincarnation road in their hands. Back to the topic, the ninth princess was a reincarnation stowaway back then. She naturally took the ancient netherworld's reincarnation road. However, there were corpses on that road. They were flesh and blood, and not in the form of souls. Moreover, the aura emitted by those corpses far exceeded that of an emperor. They were definitely extraordinaires. As expected, something happened to the reincarnation road. Huang Tian said solemnly, "Perhaps you had an accident on the reincarnation stone in one of your lives, or even a part of your soul fell on the reincarnation road. Then why don't I feel anything?" Jiang Chen was puzzled. He was living quite well now, and there was nothing wrong with his body. As for his soul, it was also bright and flawless. He observed his soul again. There was indeed no damage. However, since Huang Tian said so, then there must be something wrong with Jiang Chen's soul. The destruction of the ancient netherworld has a wide range of implications. It might be related to another world. Huang Tian said it might also be related to the blood coffin. At the mention of the blood coffin, Jiang Chen and the ninth princess's expressions changed. It was because when Jiang Chun fused with Tian Song's body, some memory fragments appeared in his mind. In those memory fragments, Jiang Chun also saw a blood coffin. As for the ninth princess, she was even clearer about that matter. Back then, when Jiang Chun was Tian Song, not only did he see the blood coffin, he was the only one who survived. As for the others, they were all dead. They died without knowing why, and the way they died was very ominous and strange. It was as if they were swallowed by something and sucked dry everything. I don't know much either. All I know is that there was a blood coffin sealed in the ancient underworld. Huang Tian said the establishment of the ancient underworld was also related to that blood coffin. But later on, the blood coffin seemed to have vanished. After that, the ancient hell was destroyed, and the path of reincarnation was severed. At this point, Huang Tian shook his head again. He had a feeling that there were other reasons for the destruction of the ancient hell. However, it had been several eras and countless years since then. Perhaps only an extremely small number of people knew what had happened back then. Perhaps, after your soul is complete, you will be able to remember what happened in the past, Huang Tian said. At that time, you will truly return. It's time for me to go. Suddenly, Huang Tian seemed to be in a hurry. Before he could explain anything, he fled into the void. However, she transmitted her voice to Jiang Chun. If he wanted to find the lost part of his soul, he could go to the 5 seas. One had to know that the 3 mountains and 5 seas had already left the 6 realms. However, according to Huang Tian's knowledge, they did not go to the ancestral realm. Instead, they went to another place, and that place was said to be the origin of the ancient underworld. She left just like that? I thought she would be angry. Jiang Chun looked at the empty space in front of him in a daze. Why would she be angry? The ninth princess asked in return. Then, she sighed and said, "Haven't you noticed? Huang Tian doesn't have a trace of anger or resentment. Perhaps she doesn't care at all that she was killed by the Pingtian clan and sealed in the sky-burying coffin." Of course, Jiang Chun did not believe her when he heard this. That was a death grudge. How could Huang Tian not care? However, when he thought about it carefully, perhaps the ninth princess was right. After all, there was a reason why the Pingtian clan killed the 3 heavens. It was for the sake of all the cultivators in the world. And Huang Tian should also understand this logic. It's just selfishness. Sometimes when you let go of it, you won't have that resentment. The ninth princess sighed. She looked up into the distance and narrowed her eyes, as if she was guessing where Huang Tian had gone. At the same time, there was something she did not tell Jiang Chun and Huang Tian. Back then, when she entered the reincarnation road, not only did she see the corpse of an extraordinaire, but she also saw a living being. That living being was like a statue, sitting at the end of the reincarnation road, as if it was guarding something. Moreover, that living being's appearance seemed to be very similar to Jiang Chun. That statue can't be formed from part of his soul, right? The ninth princess thought to herself. If that was the case, then what exactly was that statue guarding? Wasn't the end of the reincarnation road rebirth? Could it be that at the end of the road, there was another unknown and dangerous road besides reincarnation? That's right. If you find Mu Yud, you might know something about the ancient netherworld. This will help you find part of your soul. The ninth princess suddenly thought of Mu Yud. Jiang Chun's heart palpitated slightly when he heard this. Back then, Jiang Chun had always thought that Mu Yud was just the lord of the underworld. Who would have thought that Mu Yud was a living being who had crawled out from the ruins of the netherworld? He suspected that he had the inheritance of the ancient netherworld, and he might even be an important figure in the ancient netherworld. In short, Jiang Chun could now conclude that Mu Yud was definitely related to the ancient netherworld, and it was not a simple relationship. However, when Mu Yud entered that door, he seemed to have fought with someone and then disappeared. Now, he did not know where Mu Yud had gone. Was he still in that unknown world, or had he come to the greater world? As for whether Mu Yud was dead or not, Jiang Chun had never thought about it. With the character of that bastard Taoist, even if everyone in the world was dead, he would probably still be alive and well. When I reach the Southern Star region, I should ask about Mu Yud and the Five Seas whereabouts, Jiang Chen said softly. Jiang Chen, His Excellency is looking for you. At this moment, the fire dragon arrived. He had a strange expression on his face, as if he was constipated. His Excellency? Is he the Dean of the Dragon Academy? Jiang Chen asked. His Excellency was not a realm, but an honorific title. Jiang Chen could not think of anyone else who could be addressed as His Excellency in this place, other than the Dean. However, the fire dragon shook his head and said, His Excellency is not the Dean. He wants to see you. Not the Dean? Jiang Chen was puzzled. He nodded and asked the ninth princess to go with him. After all, with an emperor by his side, he would be safer. Soon, under the lead of the fire dragon, the group crossed the inner courtyard and arrived at the back mountain of the Dragon Academy. This place was open to the public not long ago, but after the Dragon Academy obtained the inheritance of the ancestral dragon, no one was allowed to enter. I will wait for you here. His Excellency is waiting for you inside. The fire dragon reminded, although you have the title of His Excellency and your identity is not ordinary, you should try to keep a low profile when facing His Excellency. Chapter 1107. After entering the back mountain, Jiang Chen followed a bluestone path and arrived in front of a cave. On both sides of the cave, there were two fire dragon prostrating. Their bell-sized eyes were wide open, and they were extremely vigilant, as if there was some treasure inside the cave. After looking at Jiang Chen for a while, they pointed at the cave and said, Go in. His honor is waiting for you inside. Jiang Chen nodded. He was also very curious in his heart to be able to be valued so highly by the Fire Dragon clan. Who exactly was this his honor? However, when Jiang Chen entered the cave and saw the true dragon sleeping with its face facing the sky, Jiang Chen felt terrible. Long Dade! Jiang Chen exclaimed. He never thought that he would meet Long Dade here. At this moment, Long Dade woke up because of Jiang Chen's voice. He excitedly came to Jiang Chen's side and said, Boss, why are you here? Jiang Chen asked doubtfully. Back then, when the three Dades left, logically speaking, they should have gone to their respective ancestral lands. But now, he actually met Long Dade in this remote world. Don't mention it. Those old fogies in the Dragon Clan's ancestral land are too strict with me. They urge me to cultivate all day long. I really can't stand it. Long Dade said snappily, It's not as good as here. Although it's a bit remote, I can live freely. Moreover, the Fire Dragon clan here treats me like a treasure. They are afraid that I will suffer the slightest grievance. Long Dade said. He even pointed at the heavenly treasures all over the cave abode and said, Look at this treatment. You can eat well and sleep well. Yeah. The ancestral dragon's inheritance that Dragon Soaring Academy mentioned. It can't be yours, right? Jiang Chen asked. What else could it be? Do you really think that there is a second divine ancestral dragon in this world? Long Dade raised his head, looking very arrogant. Jiang Chen couldn't bear to see Long Dade like this. He patted his head and said, You already knew that I entered Dragon Soaring Academy? I just found out. Long Dade said, They came to discuss with me, asking me to give a fake inheritance to a person called Jiang Chen. At that time, I was thinking that it couldn't be such a coincidence, right? Then, I sent a wisp of my divine sense over to take a look. I really didn't expect. It's fate, Long Dade said excitedly. The moment Jiang Chen heard this, his face darkened. Isn't Longting Academy too much? He actually wanted Long Dade to create a fake inheritance to trick him. Luckily, he was fated to meet Long Dade. Otherwise, Jiang Chen would definitely suffer this loss. Boss, why are you working overtime in the Jiang clan? That clan is not to be trifled with, Long Dade said in a low voice. The Jiang clan, to be precise, is not a demon clan, but an evil clan. Evil race? Jiang Chen was stunned. He had heard of many races, but this was the first time he had heard of the evil race. Long Dade had also just found out about the evil race, so he could not help but tell Jiang Chen what he knew. It turned out that a long time ago, there were hundreds of races in the world. Among them, The human, demon, and demon clans were the most prosperous. However, there were also some races, but they were rarely seen in later generations. Some were destroyed, and some were too few in number and rarely appeared in the world. Over time, they were forgotten. Other than the human, demon, and demon clans, according to the historical records of the great wide world, there were also several special races in this world. For example, the Heavenly Eye clan, the Divine Spirit clan, the Human Sovereign clan, and the Evil race. Other than that, there were also some races, but they rarely appeared in these eras. Perhaps they had already gone extinct. At this point, Long Dade's expression became more solemn, and he said, "The evil race is notorious in the history of the great wide world." Back then, the evil race almost unified the entire great wide world. However, they were too cruel, causing the hundreds of races to join forces and eventually destroy the evil race. However, there was still a branch of the evil race that was passed down, which is the current Jiang clan. In order to clear their name, they gave up their identity as the evil race and shamelessly claimed that they were also demons. When Jiangchen heard this, he had some understanding of the evil race. However, this place was so remote. Jiangchen did not believe that the evil race could still find this place. "Boss, if you were just an ordinary member of the Jiang clan, then they might really not come to investigate you," Long Dade said worriedly. "But now, the fact that you have the title of sovereign has already spread out. The outside world is in an uproar. Do you think the evil race won't know? It won't be long before they send someone over. When they see that you're a fake, not to mention your title of sovereign, even your life will be gone." At this moment, Jiang Chen's heart also palpitated. He secretly thought that he could not stay here for long. Let's not talk about the Jiang clan first. Let's talk about his title of sovereign. Although the ninth princess was protecting him now, when the news spread completely, would those emperors be able to sit still? At that time, it would be fine if 1 or 2 came, but if 5 or 6 came, or even more, would the ninth princess be able to protect him? "You're the Soaring Dragon Academy's treasure now. They all call you Supreme, Venerable. You can use your authority to let me use the Star Zone teleportation formation. I'll go to the Southern Star Zone to look for Nian Changa," Jiangchen said. When these words came out, Long Dade's expression became a little unnatural. He snorted a few times and said, "Do you think the Fire Dragon clan has a deep background? They're going crazy from poverty." "What do you mean?" Jiang Chun was stunned. He did not understand Long Dade's meaning. "There is indeed a star domain teleportation array in the Dragon Soaring Academy, but it's broken, and the Fire Dragon clan is too poor, so they don't have the money to repair it." Long Dade smiled bitterly. "At that time, I also thought of leaving this poor place to seek refuge with other dragon clans. But who would have thought that this is too poor? They can't even afford to repair a star domain teleportation array." Speaking of this, Long Dade felt even more wronged. As the ancestral dragon, his chief god-level cultivation base was not considered very high in the Greater Thousand Domains. If he left the Dragon Soaring Academy and went to other places to borrow a star domain teleportation array, he would probably be killed before he could borrow one. After all, the ancestral dragon's inheritance was too tempting. Even if he could not obtain the ancestral dragon's inheritance, he could still refine medicine. Therefore, it was not that Long Dade felt comfortable living here, but that he had no choice but to stay here. "Damn, this Dragon Soaring Academy is so poor. Why do I feel like it's the same as the Sky Reaching School?" Jiangchen muttered. He secretly thought that he had really fallen into a trap this time. "Then what should I do?" Jiangchen frowned and said, "I think it won't be long before an emperor comes to strip me of my title. The ninth princess. I'm afraid it won't be enough." "Don't mention it. There's no emperor in the Fire Dragon clan, so they can't help you," Long Dade said. "If not for the fact that the Dragon clan is huge and powerful, the Fire Dragon clan would have been exterminated long ago." "Damn, then I'm going to wait for death here?" Jiangchen rolled his eyes. He had been on many pirate ships and fallen into many traps, but he had never met such a trap like the Fire Dragon clan. The huge Fire Dragon clan did not even have an emperor. Chapter 1108. Zhang Chun didn't expect that the Fire Dragon clan would be so poor, and they weren't strong either. Now, Zhang Chun was really worried about himself. Think of a way. Zhang Chun looked at Long Dade and asked, as the ancestral dragon, you have such a high status in the dragon clan and the great thousand world. You must have a way, right? Of course there is a way, but... Long Dade frowned and said, the ancestral land of the dragon clan has already sent people over to bring me back. But you, a human, I'm afraid you can't. There's no need to bring me back to the ancestral land of the dragon clan. Think of a way to get me to the Southern Star region, Zhang Chun said. However, Long Dade shook his head. This matter was a little difficult. This was because Long Dade, the ancestral dragon, came from the Six Realms. If he had a good relationship with a stranger, it would inevitably arouse suspicion. Moreover, Zhang Chun was now pretending to be from the Zhang clan. This was something that could not be concealed. Sooner or later, he would be discovered. If Long Dade helped Zhang Chun, it would be equivalent to offending the Zhang clan. Long Dade did not care, but the Dragon clan would definitely not agree. The Dragon clan world is not big. There are a few forces with a deeper foundation. You can try going to those forces. Long Dade said, before the Emperor makes a move, quickly ask the 9th princess to protect you to find the Star Region teleportation formation. If it's too late, I'm afraid even I can't protect you. After all, Long Dade's cultivation was not high. Even if his status in the Dragon clan was very high, the Dragon clan would not do their best to protect Zhang Chun, a human, for Long Dade. That was unrealistic. Sigh. In the end, you're useless, Zhang Chun muttered. These words hurt Long Dade's self-esteem. However, when he thought about it carefully, he was really useless. Sigh. In the end, my cultivation is still low. If I were the ancestral dragon at the Emperor God level, not to mention the Emperor, I would even have the confidence to deal with an extraordinary being. Long Dade said in a deep voice. Right? Where are Niao Dade and Huang Dade? Zhang Chun asked. I don't know. After they came to the Great Thousand World, they were taken away by their respective races. Long Dade said. Bird Dade was taken away by the Vermilion Bird clan, while Huang Dade was taken away by the Phoenix clan. Judging by the two of them, they should be living a good life. Zhang Chun muttered, and then asked about Zhang Lu and the others. Long Dade told Zhang Chun that after Zhang Lu and the others were taken away by the Buddha-Arch, they were sent to the Buddhist sect world. They were guarded by the Buddhists, and the Buddhists were merciful, so they should not make things difficult for them. This made Zhang Chun heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, when he thought about it carefully, he seemed to be the one who was having the worst days. If you really can't do it, you can just sneak into the starry skies, Long Dade said. After entering the Great Thousand World, there will be a world at every certain distance. As long as you can persevere and not get lost, you will be able to reach the Southern Star region in a few years. As soon as he said this, Zhang Chun rolled his eyes and looked at Long Dade as if he was looking at an idiot. Walk in the starry sky for a few years? What nonsense! Not to mention that Zhang Chun did not know the coordinates of the Southern Star region. Even if he did, it was impossible for him to walk through the starry sky. One had to know that the starry sky seemed to be dotted with stars, but it was dark and bright, cold and silent. In fact, it was also filled with endless danger, especially those giant star beasts. Once they encountered them, even the Emperor would have to run. Don't say anything else. Go to the Hanging Mountain first. That is a place of good fortune. When you return from the Hanging Mountain, I will discuss it with you. Long Dade said. Today, he called Zhang Chun over not only to meet up with Zhang Chun, but also to let him go to the Hanging Mountain. Long Dade had already inquired about that place. It was said that in an ancient era, a place left behind by an emperor who was good at alchemy. It was also a place where pills were stored and nurtured. The pills that were extraordinary. If Zhang Chun could obtain a few, it would be of great help to his cultivation. What Zhang Chun lacked the most now was cultivation. By the way, you don't have to worry about Zhang Lu and the others for the time being. Use your authority and connections to help me inquire about these people. Zhang Chun suddenly thought of something. Jiu Tianzhong, Jiu Shun, Jiu Yuan, Mu Xingyun, and some others. When the six realms collapsed, he did not see them. He did not know if these people were dead or alive, especially those from the Jiutian court. Before Jiu Yuan died in battle, he had said that he hoped that Jiang Chun would take care of them and not let the legacy of the Jiutian court be severed. However, back then, Jiang Chun left after the six realms were destroyed. At that time, he did not see Jiu Shun and the others. As for Jiu Tianzhong, he was clearly in the Jiu Tian court together. However, during the final battle, Jiu Tianzhong seemed to have disappeared. Perhaps he had entered the upper-class world through the passage opened by the Guardian. Don't worry about that. You should be able to find some clues by asking around. Long Dade nodded. In the end, Jiang Chen left and returned to the first building. As soon as he returned, he saw Duan Muqing and Lin Xiao standing obediently in front of the door of the first building like two door gods. This surprised Jiang Chun. He asked, "Why aren't you leaving?" "This senior didn't let us leave. We didn't dare to leave." The two of them stammered. When they looked at the ninth princess behind Jiang Chun, their eyes were filled with fear. In the dragon carrier world, emperors were rare. At most, there were 3 to 5 emperors. Therefore, an emperor was extremely important in the dragon carrier world. Moreover, the dragon carrier world was not big. If an emperor wanted to find them, they would have nowhere to hide. Let them stay. They can deal with some trouble and save me the trouble of doing it myself. The ninth princess said, "That's fine too." Jiang Chen said softly. Then, Jiang Chen's eyes lit up. He looked at the two of them and asked, "How many forces are there in the dragon carrier world? Besides the Dragon Soaring Academy, are there any other forces that have a star domain teleportation formation?" The dragon carrier world is located at the edge of the eastern star domain. There are few resources here. There are not many forces that can build a star domain teleportation formation. Duan Muqing frowned. After thinking carefully, he said, "As far as I know, the Zhangsun family in the south of the dragon carrier world should have a small star domain teleportation formation." "Oh," Jiang Chen said softly. He asked, "A small star domain teleportation formation, can it send us directly to the southern star domain?" "Of course not. The star domain is vast. A small star domain teleportation formation can't do it," Lin Xiao said. "However, after 3 to 5 transits, we can enter the southern star domain." "Daoist Jiang, do you want to go home?" Duan Muqing asked. It should be known that the ancestral land of the Jiang clan was in the southern star domain. "I've been out for a long time. I miss home," Jiang Chun said with a smile. "It's best not to go to the southern star domain now. It's said that there's a war there. A group of creatures from the 6-realm burial grounds are fighting in the southern star domain. It's said that they've conquered 1/3 of the southern star domain's territory," Duan Muqing said in a deep voice. Chapter 1109. According to what Duan Muqing said, Jiang Chun didn't even need to guess to know that those people were Nian Chang'e. However, Jiang Chun didn't expect that Nian Chang'e would be doing so well now. He was so strong that he was about to conquer the southern star region. However, did Nian Chang'e not care about the consequences of such a high-profile action? There were many emperors in the Great Thousand World. Although the Great Thousand World was vast, there were only a few emperors in each world. However, if he angered them all, the group of emperors might just charge over. "I heard that those creatures from the 6 realms burial ground are very ferocious. They are not afraid of death, especially the leader. He calls himself the Chang, an ancestor." Lin Xiao had also heard about the southern star region. His expression was solemn as he said, "The Chang, an ancestor, has 72 lotuses. His cultivation is unfathomable. An ordinary emperor can't deal with him." "What?" Jiang Chun was stunned. He didn't believe Lin Zhao's words. Nian Chang'e's Dao Soul was indeed 72 lotuses. This was true. However, how long had it been? Nian Chang'e had become an emperor. Even a shooting star couldn't compare to this speed. The skeleton warriors under the Chang and ancestor are very strong, but I heard that there is a group of mysterious people helping him. If it wasn't for that group of mysterious people, Do you think they could conquer 1/3 of the Southern Star region? Duan Muqing said. However, after asking carefully, Duan Muqing didn't know the identity of the group of mysterious people behind Nianchanga. However, one thing was certain. There was indeed someone helping Nianchanga behind the scenes. Moreover, they were very strong. There were more than one or two. Nianchanga, you're doing well. I feel bad. Jiang Chen sighed in his heart. If he had known, he would have left with Nianchanga. Help me contact the Zhangsun family and see if I can borrow their Star Region teleportation formation, Jiang Chen said, and then returned to his room. As soon as he returned, Jiang Chen planned to cultivate. After all, there was nothing to do now. However, as soon as he entered the room, Jiang Chen's pupils suddenly shrank. It was because he saw Huang Tian in his room. Didn't you leave? Why are you back? Jiang Chen asked. We can't get out. Huang Tian's face was a little ugly. He pointed to the top of his head and said, Someone has set up a barrier in this world. If I force my way out, I will definitely be noticed. At that time, my identity will also be exposed. Someone set up a barrier, sealing the entire dragon-carrying world. Jiang Chen was shocked. Sealing off an entire world was something only an emperor could do. Furthermore, it had to be an overlord proficient in world spiritist techniques. However, what was the point of sealing the dragon carrier world? Could it be because of my supreme title? Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed, and his heart was in his throat. If that was the case, then he was in a very bad situation. For an emperor who dared to seal the dragon carrier world, there was no need to mention his strength and foundation. He was ridiculously strong. The ninth princess would not be able to stop such a person. It shouldn't be because of your supreme title. Huang Tian shook his head and said, It might be because of that little dragon. Little dragon? Jiang Chen whispered. Then he exclaimed softly, Long Dade? You know that Long Dade is here? As an emperor and the former ruler of the six worlds, if I don't have the ability to do something like that, wouldn't I be too weak? Huang Tian said in annoyance. She was half lying on Jiang Chen's bed, swinging her slender legs leisurely. That we are all living beings of the six worlds. Can you help Long Dade? Jiang Chen asked. Haven't I helped the six worlds enough? Huang Tian's beautiful eyes glanced at Jiang Chen and said, Those people tried to kill me and seal me, but in the end, I still helped the six worlds. I've already done my best. Now, the six worlds are gone and my situation is not good. You want me to help others? Jiang Chen let out a heavy sigh when he heard that. He knew that there was actually no friendship between him and Huang Tian. The reason Huang Tian was here was because she was familiar with Jiang Chen. After all, in this place, the only people from the six worlds were Jiang Chen and the ninth princess. Of course, there was also a dragon. I will stay here for a while. When the boundary outside is broken, I will leave. Huang Tian said softly and pointed at the corner of the room. You will stay there. This? Jiang Chen was angry, but did not dare to say anything. This room was clearly his, but now, you are sleeping on the bed and I am staying in the corner? Fine, you are the boss. You have the final say. By the way, you may be fine in the six worlds, but after coming to the Great Thousand World, you have to be careful. Don't be targeted by the reincarnation hunters. Huang Tian suddenly said, There are many people in the Great Thousand World. Perhaps there are reincarnation hunters in the dragon carrier world. When you fight with others, don't reveal your origin aura. Thank you for the reminder. Jiang Chen whispered and could not help but look at Huang Tian a few more times. This woman is quite gentle and attentive. She is indeed very good-looking. Little guy, what are you looking at? Huang Tian seemed to see through Jiang Chen's thoughts at a glance and teased. How long have you lived in this life? At my age, it's not enough for you to call me grandma. This can't be counted like this, right? I know that I have been reincarnated several times. My seniority in the first life should be higher than yours, right? Jiang Chen retorted. However, as soon as Jiang Chen said this, a trace of disappointment appeared in Huang Tian's eyes. She seemed to be absent-minded and stared blankly at Jiang Chen for a long time. When she came back to her senses, she sighed and said, In the end, It's not him. After saying that, Huang Tian lay on the bed and waved her hand. Don't disturb my rest. Oh! Jiang Chen nodded weakly. He really did not have any temper with Huang Tian. This was because the power contained in Huang Tian's body was enough to beat up a group of emperors. Now, Huang Tian's body and soul had fused. The depth of his strength was probably unimaginable. In fact, it was very likely that Huang Tian had already taken that step. If an emperor wanted to transcend, he had to take 3 steps. The most important step was to condense the Great Path flower and bloom another petal of the Great Path. Jiang Chun had a feeling that Huang Tian might have taken that crucial step. Or perhaps it was more than one step. Time passed slowly, until 3 days later, on this day, the fire dragon came and handed a token to Jiang Chun. The Dragon Academy plans to send you to the Hanging Mountain to fight for the good fortune. Oh! Jiang Chen's reaction was very calm. After all, Long Dade had already told him about this. However, the fire dragon's expression was very serious. He reminded, be careful. This time, your Jiang clan's old enemy clan will also send a descendant. The Jiang clan's old enemy? Who is it? Jiang Chen asked curiously. Chapter 11:10. The Jiang clan was so famous that even the Dragon clan had to be wary of them. Jiang Chen found it hard to imagine that such a clan would actually have an old enemy. However, Jiang Chen couldn't ask the fire dragon who the old enemy of the Jiang clan was. Wouldn't he be exposed if he asked? Are there only people from the Dragon Carrier world going to the Hanging Mountain this time? Jiang Chen asked. Originally, there were only people from the Dragon Carrier world, but it's different this time. A large force has also sent people and sealed off the entire Dragon Carrier world. The fire dragon said in a deep voice, that force is not to be trifled with. They have an extremely strong foundation and have never declined in the great wide world. What force? Jiang Chen asked. Jiang Chen had just arrived in the great wide world and didn't know anything about the forces here. Now, it was better to inquire about it through the fire dragon and be careful. Jinbu Temple. The fire dragon said in a deep voice, this force has always been strong and has an eternal inheritance. They have extraordinaires overseeing it, and there are more than one. Jinbu Temple? Jiang Chen whispered. For some reason, the person martial god suddenly flashed through his mind. Back then, the 36 main gods were destroyed, and only a few escaped and disappeared. Among them, martial god was included. Jinbu Temple, does it have branches in the 6 realms? Jiang Chen asked. 6 realms? Over at the burial ground? I'm not sure about that, but I heard that there are. The fire dragon said, some time ago, the 6 realms were destroyed. I heard that a main god escaped from the 6 realms and was accepted by the Jinbu Temple in the end. That's right. Jiang Chen's expression froze. He knew that martial god wasn't that simple. One had to know that among the 36 main gods, only martial god didn't have a title. However, his combat strength wasn't weaker than any of them. Back then, Jiang Chun had been confused. Why was martial god so extraordinary? From the looks of it, martial god had long been connected to the Jinbu Temple in the boundless world. Who did Jinbu Temple send this time? Jiang Chen asked. An emperor, and the one from the 6 realms, the fire dragon said. As soon as he said this, Jiang Chen's eyes flashed with a cold light. Although the great thousand world was vast, at this moment, Jiang Chun felt like this world was really small. Martial god, it's time to end this. Jiang Chun thought to himself. Then he cupped his hands towards the fire dragon and said, Then, when shall we depart? Let's head out now. The fire dragon said, when we get there, those with cultivation levels above the God King level will not be able to enter. I'll wait for you outside. Okay. Jiang Chen nodded and called for the 9th princess. As for Huang Tian, Jiang Chen definitely couldn't get him to move. No one could stop that guy from doing whatever he wanted. Then, under the lead of the fire dragon, Jiang Chen and the others left the Dragon Academy and crossed the void. Not long after, They arrived near the Hanging Mountain. The so-called Hanging Mountain was a tall mountain floating in the clouds. Near the tall mountain, there were 6 small mountains like stars surrounding the moon, surrounding the tall mountain in the middle. The heaven and earth origin chi here was very dense, and there were ribbon-like divine lights floating in the air. On the 6 small mountains, there were 6 different colors of light like rainbows. These lights finally gathered on top of the mountain in the middle, forming a gorgeous multicolored light. It was very beautiful. When Jiangchen arrived, he exclaimed in his heart, this place had seized the power of heaven and earth. With the 6 small mountains as the fire and the tall mountain as the furnace, it was a place for refining pills. As expected of the emperor's work, using heaven and earth as the furnace to refine pills. Jiangchen whispered, no one has entered the main peak in the middle since ancient times. There are many restrictions there, and even the emperor can't enter. The fire dragon explained, what you have to do is to compete for pills on these 6 small mountains. I can't enter the main peak? Jiangchen frowned and carefully observed the movement of heaven and earth around him. Then he laughed helplessly. That's right. The movement of heaven and earth here formed a huge force. The main peak seemed to be sealed, and there were many restrictions. It was even supported by some special rules and order. However, there is a rumor here. It is said that the emperor who had reached the pinnacle of pill refining is in the main peak. He is not dead, and is refining a furnace of supreme pills, the fire dragon said. However, after saying this, the fire dragon shook his head and curled his lips. That's just a legend. Several eras have passed, and no one has seen the emperor. He is probably dead. It's really him. At this moment, Jiang Chun was not in the mood to listen to the fire dragon's words. His gaze fell on a place not far away. There were 2 people standing there. Their auras were majestic, and they gave people a fierce feeling. Jiang Chun did not recognize one of them, but Jiang Chun would remember the other person even if he was dead. Martial God! Yo, your enemy. The 9th princess secretly transmitted her voice with a hint of mockery. He is now a supreme god. Do you want me to help you get rid of him? I can do it myself this time, Jiangchen said softly. Where is the Jiang clan? All of a sudden, an extremely arrogant voice rang out. After this voice appeared, everyone's gaze turned to the source of the voice. Not far away from Jiangchen, there was a young man in red standing proudly. His cultivation had reached the level of a supreme god. There was a hint of fierceness between his brows, and his eyes were as bright as gems. Evil clan, great void race. At this moment, exclamations sounded one after another, especially when the great void race was mentioned. Many people's eyes were filled with fear. That is your old enemy. The fire dragon reminded, be careful. You have just become a titled deity, and the other party is already a supreme god. So what? If we really fight, it's hard to say who will win, Jiang Chun said coldly. Where is the Jiang clan? Hurry up and come out. Let me meet you. At this moment, the young man from the Great Void Race was still clamoring. His gaze swept across the crowd, and then he frowned. This was because he knew that the Jiang clan would come for this trip to the Hanging Mountain. And the Great Void Race was the Jiang clan's old enemy. Even if they were thousands of miles away, he could sense the other party's aura. But now, he could not sense the Jiang clan's aura. Could it be that the news was wrong? Help me see what his original form is. Jiang Chun transmitted his voice to the 9th princess. Hearing this, a ray of light appeared in the eyes of the 9th princess. After a few breaths, her expression became a little strange. Even her snow-white skin had goosebumps. A pool of blood, black blood. The 9th princess said, there is such a clan in this world? Their original form is a pool of black blood? Their original form looks all right, Jiangchen muttered. After all, the Jiang clan's original form was also unacceptable. However, compared to the Great Void Race, Jiangchen suddenly felt that the Jiang clan's original form looked much better. It is said that the Great Void Race was born from a mysterious drop of black blood between heaven and earth. The fire dragon said softly, they are an evil clan, one of the few remaining evil clans. Chapter 11:11. There weren't many evil races left in the world, and the Great Void Race was one of them. Moreover, the Great Void Race and the Jiang clan had been enemies since ancient times. Once they met, they would fight to the death. This time, the Great Void Race youth came to Xin Mountain to deal with Jiangchun, but he didn't know that Jiangchun wasn't from the Jiang clan. Come out! At this moment, the Great Void Race youth's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He scanned his surroundings, but couldn't find the Jiang clan's aura. This made him very angry. He roared angrily, and even a black fog rose from his body. Upon closer inspection, there was actually blood flowing in the fog, giving off a sinister and evil feeling. We're from the same roots, so why are we in such a hurry to kill each other? Someone sighed. They knew the relationship between the Jiang clan and the Great Void Race. It was said that a long time ago, these two races were from the same clan. But later on, for some reason, the two clans separated, and even their bodies changed. Until now, the Jiang clan's body had become a meat show full of tentacles, while the Great Void Race had become a pool of black blood. You don't have any thoughts? At this moment, the fire dragon looked at Jiangchun in confusion. Logically speaking, if these two clans met, they wouldn't need to provoke each other and would attack directly. But Jiangchun was very calm, and there wasn't a trace of murderous intent on him. Just an ant, Jiangchun said softly. He's not worth my time? The fire dragon couldn't help but nod. Although he was confused as to why Jiangchun didn't attack, he agreed with Jiangchun. After all, it was inevitable for a disciple of the Jiang clan, who had the title of Supreme, to be arrogant. Furthermore, the fire dragon also believed that if the two of them were to fight, the disciple of the Great Void Race would definitely not be a match for Jiangchun. That didn't mean that the fire dragon believed in Jiangchun, but that he believed in Jiangchun's supreme title. The barrier has been raised. Those whose cultivation level is higher than divine kings cannot stay here. You have to be careful. Half the time it took for an incense stick to burn, rays of light rose from the 6 hills and surrounded the place. A 6-colored barrier rose up, isolating the mountain from the outside world. A unique law and order appeared in this place. Cultivators above the level of deity king couldn't stay in the hanging mountains. Even the monarchs couldn't fight against the law and order here. At this moment, the 9th princess and the fire dragon had retreated outside of the hanging mountain. The other cultivators above the god king level did the same. All of a sudden, only the disciples of the various major powers were left on the mountain. Among them, the one with the highest cultivation was naturally the youth from the Great Void Race, a high-level divine king. The rest of the people were basically divine kings as well. As for Jiangchun, a god with a title, he seemed like a crane in a flock of chickens among a group of divine kings. Whose disciple is this? A mere titled god dares to come to the hanging mountains to fight for opportunities? Titled god? Is he here to die? One had to know that many people would die when the hanging mountains opened every year. After all, the elixirs produced here were too shocking and could be called treasures. When fighting for the elixirs, casualties were unavoidable, and a titled god was like an ant here. Hey, kid from the Great Void Race, the person you're looking for from the Jiang clan is him. Suddenly, a youth with a short sword shouted at the youth from the Great Void Race. Then, he waved his hand and pointed at Jiangchun. Upon hearing this, the Great Void clan's youngster's eyes shone with an ice-cold light. He squinted his eyes and looked toward Jiangchun. Don't tell me I've been exposed? Jiangchun was shocked, and his expression was tense. The Great Void Race was the archenemy of the Jiang clan. Jiangchun felt that his identity could not be hidden from this youth from the Great Void Race. However, to Jiangchun's surprise, this youth from the Great Void Race looked at Jiangchun with disdain and said, "The Jiang clan is still the same. They like to hide their auras. How cowardly!" Phew! Jiangchun heard this and heaved a sigh of relief. Then he raised his eyebrows and said, "Let's fight for the elixirs here first and then fight later?" "That's what I'm thinking." The youth from the Great Void race nodded. There was bound to be a fight between the two of them. But now was not the time for that fight. After all, they had come to the Hanging Mountains. Their main purpose was to fight for the elixirs. Jinbu Temple wants this place. At this moment, Martial God spoke. He stood alone on one of the 6 hills. His expression was stern, and his aura was vast and mighty. He was like a god of war. However, the people here were not afraid of him. It was just that no one dared to fight for that hill. This was because the name of Jinbu Temple was enough to intimidate many people. However, this year's Hanging Mountains were a little different. If you didn't say it, I wouldn't have bothered to argue with you. However, since you've said it today, if I don't attack you, wouldn't the world think that the Great Void race is afraid of the Jinbu Temple? At this moment, the youth from the Great Void race took a step forward. A black shadow appeared behind him. Wherever he passed, black blood dripped from his feet. This person is mine. Jiang Chen immediately became anxious. Today, fighting for the elixirs was one thing. Killing his enemy with his own hands was what Jiang Chen wanted the most. With that, Jiang Chen charged out directly toward Martial God. Do you want to die? Do you have to fight with me? The youth from the Great Void race roared angrily. I'll fight with you later. Get out of my way. This person's life is mine for sure. Jiang Chen spoke coldly. He didn't pay any attention to the Great Void clan. He used the shrinking ground technique and dashed up to the Martial God. Martial God was now a disciple of Jinbu Temple. His cultivation had reached the king of gods. He was in high spirits. He was not afraid of the Great Void race or the Jiang clan. Jinbu Temple was so powerful that he was not afraid of these 2 clans. Moreover, he had not been a disciple of Jinbu Temple for long. Now was the time for him to perform. If he could defeat the disciples of the Great Void race and the Jiang clan today, Jinbu Temple would naturally value him and nurture him. At that thought, Martial God raised his eyebrows and said, Both of you, come at me together. Today, let me have a taste of the so-called evil race. Together? You're even more arrogant than me. At that moment, Jiang Chen and the youth from the Great Void race were stunned, especially the youth from the Great Void race. He had seen arrogant people, but he had never seen anyone who dared to be so arrogant in front of him. I'll grant you your wish. You want to come at me together? I'll grant you your wish too. The next moment, to the crowd's astonishment, Jiang Chen and the Great Void clan's youngster didn't have any moral integrity at all. One after the other, they released fist radiance and palm seals. They really attacked together. On the other hand, Martial God's face darkened. He had only said it casually to boost morale. Who knew that the disciples of these 2 evil races would be so unprincipled and attack together? Chapter 11:12. Martial God hadn't been in the Great Thousand World for long, so he didn't know what kind of creatures the evil races were. However, all the creatures in the Great Thousand World knew that the evil races had no bottom line and no moral integrity to speak of. If you asked them to attack together, they would attack together. This was considered as listening to you and giving you face. I can sense the aura on your body. It doesn't belong to the Great Thousand World. At this moment, the Great Void race youth licked his scarlet lips and landed a palm strike on Martial God's shoulder, scraping a string of blood out. Then he retreated to the side and revealed a greedy and enjoyable expression. He actually swallowed Martial God's blood that stained his hand. Hiss, this taste, the aura of the ancestral realm. The Great Void race youth's eyes were filled with greed. He stared at Martial God and said, I'm going to eat you. Don't snatch it. Jiang Chen roared angrily. Martial God was his enemy, so he naturally had to kill him with his own hands today. However, when the Great Void race youth heard this, he undoubtedly thought that Jiang Chen wanted to snatch his food. The Jiang clan doesn't eat humans. The Great Void race youth said coldly. His body suddenly turned into a rain of blood, as if he was an avatar, and directly drowned Martial God. Do the 2 of you really think that I'm easy to bully? Martial God roared and waved his fists. He actually shattered the rain of blood that the Great Void race youth had turned into. Then, everyone saw that the great void race youth was sent flying by martial god's punch. Along the way, black blood splattered. He seemed to be injured. This guy is so strong. As expected of a disciple of Jinbu Temple, he can actually suppress the great void race youth. Many people exclaimed. They didn't expect martial god to be so strong. Poof! However, at this moment, a muffled sound was heard from martial god's body. Everyone looked over and saw that Jiang Chun had unknowingly appeared behind martial god. He pointed his finger and almost pierced through the back of martial god's head. If martial god hadn't reacted quickly and dodged to the side, this attack would have been enough to kill martial god. At this moment, martial god's eyes focused. He stared at Jiang Chun and felt like he had seen this person before. Jiang Chun was frightened by the martial god stare. He thought to himself that he mustn't expose his identity. Kill! Jiang Chun didn't care about anything else, and he started weaving hand signs with his hands. His extraordinary power erupted out, and the images of the dragon and the tiger appeared at the same time. He formed a dragon fist in his left hand and a tiger palm in his right. He pushed both of his hands out and attacked martial god. However, martial god was extremely strong now. He also pushed both of his hands out and blocked Jiang Chun's attack. Moreover, when the martial god swung his fist, it was like a star was descending from the sky, and its terrifying might seem to have converged the vast energy of the stars. Jiang Chun didn't even have time to react before he was sent flying. Blood was spilled all over the place. Who is this guy? Isn't he too strong? First, he defeated the youth of the Great Void Race. Now he sent the Jiang clan flying. This disciple of Jinbu Temple is really strong. Around them, many people were dumbfounded. Although they knew that the disciples of Jinbu Temple were strong, they didn't expect them to be this strong. Strong? You think he's strong? Suddenly, the youth of the Great Void Race stood up and stretched his arms. He said disdainfully, "This kind of trash is just food in my eyes." After saying that, he charged out again. At the same time, his figure became illusory. At the same time, a black blood river appeared. The river of blood seemed to fall from the endless void. It was like an upside-down galaxy. When it fell, Martial God was sent flying. Martial God's body was stained with black blood. His body was emitting thick smoke, as if he was about to be burned. The Jinbu Temple and the Great Void Race are a little pretentious. Young friend, please don't hurt our friendship. Just as the youth of the Great Void Race was about to attack again, the Emperor of Jinbu Temple spoke. Oh! At this moment, the youth of the Great Void Race raised his eyebrows and looked up at the Emperor of Jinbu Temple outside the barrier. Then he chuckled and said, "Fine, I'll give you some face. Otherwise, he would be food in my mouth now." The rumors are true. Is the Jinbu Temple really related to the evil race? The Jinbu Temple can be said to be on good terms with both the good and the bad. Not to mention the evil race, it's said that they also have a good relationship with the divine race. Many people were shocked. They only knew that the legacy of the Jinbu Temple was eternal, but they didn't expect that the Jinbu Temple had such a deep relationship with the evil race. However, they soon realized that the Emperor of Jinbu Temple didn't seem to care about Jiangchun. The relationship between the Jinbu Temple and the Jiang clan doesn't seem to be that good, someone muttered. The Jiang clan and the Great Void Race are old enemies. Since the Jinbu Temple is on good terms with the Great Void Race, it's naturally impossible for them to be on good terms with the Jiang clan, someone explained. At this moment, Jiang Chun stood up from afar. His expression was stern, and the power in his body was roaring. However, after a few breaths, Jiang Chun suddenly retracted his aura, and even the power in his body calmed down. This was because Jiang Chun was afraid. One had to know that there was an emperor here. If Jiang Chun used his full strength, his identity would definitely be exposed. The consequences would be very serious. Although Jiang Chun wanted to kill his enemy with his own hands, he didn't lose his mind. When this is over, I'll have a good fight with you. Jiang Chun looked at the martial god, and the murderous intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. When the martial god heard this, he sneered contemptuously and said, "So what if you're from the Jiang clan? With your cultivation level, you'll definitely lose if you fight with me." Is that so? Jiang Chen's heart was suddenly filled with anger. Definitely lose? If it weren't for the emperor here, and if it weren't for the fact that he was worried about his identity being exposed, he would have killed a divine king like you with one punch. In the end, Jiang Chun didn't continue speaking. He looked at a small mountain beside the martial god. There were a few young humans there, and their cultivation levels were at the intermediate divine king level. They were not to be trifled with. Then, Jiang Chun looked at the other small mountains. Jiang Chun felt helpless after looking at them. This was because the people who entered the mountain were all at the divine king level. If he wanted to defeat these divine kings, Jiang Chun would have to use his full strength and reveal his trump card. However, if he did that, Jiang Chun wouldn't be far from death. Although you're a disciple of the Jiang clan, but with your cultivation level, I'm afraid you're wasting your time here. We're all divine kings, and we're 2 realms lower than you. What do you have to fight with us? At this moment, many people were mocking him, and they felt very satisfied. After all, to be able to mock the high and mighty Jiang clan was indeed very comfortable for many people. However, Jiang Chun suddenly smiled, and the aura on his body changed abruptly, as if he was a different person. Chapter 11:13. Jiang Chun had been worried that if he used his full strength, he might expose his identity. Therefore, he chose to bear with it. But now it was different. Just a moment ago, Jiang Chun sensed clearly that a familiar energy had entered his body quietly. Huang Tian? Jiang Chun was shocked, but there was an evil smile on his face. However, this time, Huang Tian didn't give much power. It only made Jiang Chun's cultivation temporarily reach the level of a divine king. Moreover, Huang Tian's methods were quite profound. He changed Jiang Chun's original aura. Even his soul and Tao soul were covered with Huang Dao's aura. In this way, even if Jiang Chun used his full strength, these people wouldn't be able to see any flaws. Even if the emperors came, they wouldn't be able to see through his foundation. After all, Huang Tian's strength was comparable to that of the emperors back then. This mountain, I want it. At this moment, Jiang Chun looked at a small mountain next to martial god. As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed to the top of the mountain. Without waiting for the few people on the mountain to react, Jiang Chun punched continuously. There was nothing fancy about it. However, every punch gave people a feeling that they were no match for him. The fist radiance shook and the void was distorted. The few people on the mountain didn't even have the chance to resist and were directly thrown down. No way! A titled deity can actually suppress a divine king? How is this possible? The people around exclaimed. In their eyes, Jiang Chun was still a titled deity. After all, Huang Tian's methods were indeed extraordinary. He had helped Jiang Chun hide many things. You have some skills, but it's a pity that you can't. Martial God, who was on the mountain next to him, sneered with a look of contempt. However, he frowned and kept looking at Jiang Chun. He felt that he had seen him somewhere before. It's not up to you to say whether I can or can't, Jiang Chun said softly. A murderous intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. Great Void Race boy, you've gone too far, too cruel. Suddenly, on the mountain opposite Jiang Chun, a few angry roars and screams were heard. Everyone hurriedly looked over and saw the Great Void Race boy with a mouth full of blood. He even licked his scarlet lips. At his feet, there were some mutilated corpses that were dripping with blood. None of the living beings that had occupied the mountain before were still alive. They had all been devoured by the young man from the Great Void tribe. A long time ago, all of you were originally our flesh and blood. The Taishu tribe didn't seem to mind at all. He said softly, right now, it's just that the 100 tribes are standing in great numbers. The Taishu tribe doesn't want to fight for anything. If we really want to fight, the Taishu tribe can swallow everything. This era is different from the ancient times. In this era, you evil races, isn't it? You also know that there are hundreds of races. Why are you so arrogant in the Great Void Race when there are hundreds of races? All around, the humans and even the demon race were angrily rebuking. They felt that the Great Void Race boy was too cruel. He easily devoured people alive. Umph. I'll eat them. What can you do to me? The Great Void Race boy raised his eyebrows. He scanned the living creatures around him and lifted his chin slightly. Remember, my name is Prince. What? He's Prince. The strongest of the Great Void Race's younger generation. Prince? At this moment, exclamations sounded one after another. Even the emperors standing outside the barrier changed their expressions. Prince's name resounded throughout the entire stellar domain in this era. Not only was he extremely powerful, but he was also the most talented person in the Great Void Race in the past thousands of years. However, what he was most famous for was not his strength, but his cruelty and bloodthirstiness. From the moment he appeared until now, not a single one of those who opposed him survived. They were all devoured by him. Not long ago, he even devoured a white phoenix. Luckily, I'm not interested in you today. I'm here today for the pills, and for that boy from the Jiang clan. Prince raised his eyebrows. His gaze fell on Jiang Chun. With a look of disdain and a hint of greed in his eyes, he said, I haven't eaten the Jiang clan for a long time. I've almost forgotten how it tastes. Then soak your feet in your original form. Jiang Chun was not to be outdone. He knew that the Great Void Race's original form was a pool of black blood. You! How dare you! Who knew that after the Crown Prince heard this, he would suddenly become agitated? His eyes were filled with ferocity. He stared at Jiang Chun and said, You'll die a horrible death later. I'll soak my feet in yours. Jiang Chun continued. Jiang Chun also noticed that Prince's current mood was not right, especially when he heard the words, soak your feet. He looked like he was about to go berserk. This boy from the Jiang clan is really bold. How can he say something like that so casually? Doesn't he know that this is a taboo in the Great Void Race? Keep your voice down. I heard that there was once an ancestor in the Great Void Race who was killed and transformed into his original form. In the end, the other party was a ferocious person, so he soaked his feet in the original form of the Great Void Race's ancestor. It can't be. There's such a thing? Who's that ferocious person? How dare he soak his feet in the Great Void Race? Many people were whispering among themselves. This made Prince even more unhappy. The black blood behind him boiled, as if he was about to go berserk. Brat, I'm going to kill you. After a few breaths, Prince finally could not take it anymore. With a furious roar, he was about to charge toward Jiang Chun. However, at this moment, rays of light suddenly rose from the 6 small mountains. Upon closer inspection, each ray of light was enveloped by a pure origin elixir. The fragrance of the elixir assailed one's nostrils. Every elixir was branded with runes of the Great Tao. The elixir is out. Hurry up and snatch it. The living beings in the mountain were in a frenzy. Although they did not know what elixir these were, they all knew that it was fine as long as they could snatch it. In an instant, the living beings in the mountain made their moves. Some of them were even completely fearless of Prince and rushed toward the mountain where Prince was at. They were trying to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. Similarly, some people also rushed toward the mountain where Martial God was at. However, even more people rushed toward the mountain where Jiang Chun was at. After all, among all the cultivators present, Jiang Chun's cultivation level was the lowest. Interesting. Do you really think I'm a pushover? Jiang Chun's expression turned serious. He waved his left hand in the air and collected the elixirs one by one. His right hand formed a fist seal. The ecliptic chi exploded like a yellow dragon and sent the group of people who were rushing toward him flying. However, suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air came from behind Jiang Chun. Then, before Jiang Chun could react, a cold ray of light pierced through the void and directly nailed the back of Jiang Chun's head. Oh! Jiang Chun was furious. If not for his strong physical body, this cold ray of light would have been enough to pierce through his head and even destroy his soul. His physical body is so strong. At the same time, a black shadow appeared not far behind Jiangchun. There was a hint of surprise on his face. Chapter 11:14. Many people had come to the mountain this time. Some of them had been hiding in the dark, waiting for the right opportunity to snatch one or two pills. However, this person was different. He had been lurking there, not for the elixirs, but to kill Jiangchun. However, he did not expect Jiangchun's body to be so strong and indestructible. You are courting death. At this moment, Jiangchun's face darkened. His ecliptic chi exploded, and his palm pressed down like a falling cloud. Boom! The person who had ambushed him did not have time to dodge. After taking Jiangchun's palm head-on, his entire body exploded, and not even his soul was left. At this moment, the people around started to panic. They could not imagine how a titled deity could have such combat strength. With one palm, he killed a deity king. This guy is not simple. Let's stay away from him. The Jiang clan is not to be trifled with. For a time, many people retreated and chose to stay on other mountains. Jiangchun didn't walk around. He just occupied his own mountain and collected the ascended elixirs calmly. After half an hour, Jiangchun received more than 30 pills. Each pill was very precious. The fragrance of the pills filled his nostrils, and runes of the great Tao appeared on the pills. Why? Why are there so many pills in this place? Jiangchun was confused. Could there be another world under these mountains? Otherwise, why would these pills appear out of nowhere? Kid, now that we have collected all the pills, it's time to settle the score between us. At this moment, there were no more pills rising from the 6 mountains. Everyone was done. Prince looked at Jiangchun and walked toward him step by step. At the same time, Martial God was also standing not far away. His eyes kept darting between Jiangchun and Prince. He wanted to use this opportunity to suppress Jiangchun and Prince so that he could be valued and nurtured by the Jinbu Temple. However, before the three could fight, the sound of a bell could be heard coming from the main peak in the middle. The sound of the bell was very loud, like thunder, but if one listened carefully, the sound of the bell seemed to be the sound of a heartbeat. There are living creatures in the main peak. What's with this heartbeat? At this moment, even the emperors outside the barrier were moved. One had to know that the main peak of the hanging mountain had never shown any signs of movement since ancient times. He couldn't enter that place. There were restrictions and barriers everywhere. But now, the sound of heartbeats could be heard coming from the main peak. Moreover, as time passed, the heartbeat became louder and louder until it exploded like thunder. At the same time, the barriers and restrictions on the main peak were collapsing. Half an incense stick of time later, the barriers and restrictions on the main peak had completely disappeared. Following that, everyone saw a pill furnace appear on top of the main peak. Around the pill furnace, the runes of the great Tao transformed into lotus flowers that floated up and down. There were even laws that transformed into true dragons that circled around the pill furnace. Above the pill furnace, there seemed to be a chaotic green lotus blooming. It was extraordinary. Is that the real treasure of the Hanging Mountain? It has the aura of time. That pill furnace has existed for a long time. Maybe it's even longer than the years we've lived. Outside the barrier, the emperors were shocked. Their eyes were shining brightly, as if they wanted to see through the pill furnace. However, this place was extraordinary. It gathered the power of heaven and earth and had special laws. Even the emperors couldn't see through everything here. Moreover, this pill furnace was obviously extraordinary. How could it be seen through so easily? We must get this pill furnace. It doesn't matter if there are pills in it or not. With the power of heaven and earth, a pill that has been refined for countless years. If it appears, it will definitely cause a commotion. Just as everyone was guessing, the strange phenomenon around the pill furnace suddenly disappeared. Then the 6 mountains beside it collapsed. Gravel shot out and dust flew everywhere. Everyone rose into the air. and when the dust settled, their expressions changed greatly. They saw that under the 6 collapsed mountains were actually 6 dragon veins. The dragon's tail was facing outwards, and the dragon's head was facing inwards, converging with the hanging mountain. It's a true dragon, a dragon vein refined from a true dragon's corpse. They're all 5-clawed golden dragons, the kings of the dragon race. At this moment, the fire dragon's expression became very ugly. 6 5-clawed golden dragons had appeared here, but they had been refined into dragon veins. This was a disgrace to the dragon race. However, not many people cared about these dragon veins. Their gazes landed on the pill furnace on top of the hanging mountain. At this moment, the pill furnace was vibrating gently, swallowing and spitting out light. The great Tao was also humming around it, like an ancient scripture. After a few breaths, the lid of the pill furnace also began to vibrate. It seemed that something was about to appear inside. If there's really a pill inside, I'm afraid that pill is heaven-defying. Could it be a pill that can allow one to break through the shackles and become a transcendent? The emperors around focused their eyes. If it was really that kind of pill, then not only this place, but the entire dragon carrier world would be swept by a storm. This place might even turn into a battlefield, and various races would come to fight for the pill. However, this was just everyone's guess. F***CKU. Run! Suddenly, Jiang Chun screamed strangely. This was because the 3 strands of chaotic qi in his body had sent out a faint consciousness. This was a warning. Jiang Chun didn't dare to be careless. After all, this was the first time the chaotic qi had sent out a consciousness. Of course, if that was all, Jiang Chun wouldn't have lost his composure like this. This was because the lantern-bearer's eyes suddenly opened at this moment. The scene it saw was reflected in Jiang Chun's mind. There was no pill inside the pill furnace. There was clearly a living person inside, and that person was surrounded by demonic qi. His eyes were pitch black, and he was sitting cross-legged inside the pill furnace. He looked at the living beings around the hanging mountain cruelly and mockingly. "You, what's going on?" The 9th princess was confused. However, before Jiang Chun could explain, the lid of the pill furnace exploded. In the next moment, a terrifying gust of wind swept in all directions. An array of demonic qi as black as ink shot into the sky. Immediately after, the world around them started to collapse and crack apart, and strange phenomena appeared all over the sky. At the same time, a Tao flower appeared in the sky above the hanging mountain. That was the sign of transcending the shackles and stepping into the transcendent realm. Transcendent. Someone is about to break through? Many people were shocked, and the emperor's faces were pale. Through the demonic qi, they saw a stalwart man looking at them mockingly. His body emitted the aura of an emperor, but this aura was changing. He was transcending the tribulation. He was breaking through. This is not a place for refining pills, but a place for sealing. Finally, an emperor came to a realization. This place was not using the power of heaven and earth to nurture pills. Instead, it was using the power of heaven and earth and the power of the dragon veins to refine the demon path emperor. Chapter 11:15. With the 6 mountains as a cage and the 6 dragons as chains, they sealed off all directions, forming a special law and order, all for the sake of trapping and refining the demon path emperor in the furnace. At this moment, the emperors realized that the ascension pills on the 6 mountains were not real pills, but the power of Shun Shi that had overflowed when refining the demon path emperor. However, it was already too late for them to realize this now. The seal here had been broken, and the demon path emperor had been born. The moment he was born, he was about to break through the shackles and step into the transcendent realm. There was no emotion in his eyes, his face was pale, and his lips were scarlet. He stared at the living beings around him and did not speak. However, when he opened his mouth, many of them instantly screamed. The essence, energy, and spirit in their bodies were rapidly flowing into the demon path emperor's body. "Run, demon path emperor!" At this moment, even the emperors were panicking. They had not taken that step. Compared to the demon path emperor, they were nothing. They did not even have the strength to resist. Oh my God, I almost died there. At this moment, Jiang Chun had already brought the 9th princess and the fire dragon far away from the mountain. He was secretly glad. If not for the warning of the lamp bearer and the 3 strands of primal chaos chi, he would probably have been devoured like those people. He's not just the demon path emperor. He should be a demon too, the 9th princess said in a low voice. It's impossible for a demon cultivator's demonic chi to be so strong or so pure. Who cares? Saving our lives is more important, Jiang Chun said in a low voice. However, just as he finished speaking, Jiang Chun saw an old acquaintance flying in their direction from the corner of his eyes. Just in time, Jiang Chun's eyes flashed coldly. That person was none other than Martial God. Obviously, Martial God had also escaped. At this moment, Martial God's expression froze. Looking at Jiang Chun, who was charging at him, he said in a low voice, "Why aren't you leaving? You have all the time in the world. Why do you have to pick now? You're different from others." Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows, and the ecliptic chi in his body erupted, and the illusory images of dragons and tigers appeared one after another. In the next moment, before Martial God could react, the ever-changing heavenly lamp was unleashed. A shocking sword radiance burst out from Jiang Chun's hand. 10,000 transformations heavenly slash? You're Jiang Chun? Martial God reacted quickly, his eyes filled with fear. However, the sword aura was too fast. Before Martial God could react, it had cut him in half. The world is big, but in my eyes it's really small, Jiang Chun said coldly. He took a step forward, grabbed Martial God's head, and was about to crush it. You can't kill me. I'm a disciple of the Jinbu Temple. If you kill me, the Jinbu Temple won't let you go. Martial God was terrified. He was already a king of gods. If he wasn't so afraid of Jiang Chun, he might be able to compete with Jiang Chun. Unfortunately, whether it was Martial God or the main gods who were already dead, they respected Jiang Chun from the bottom of their hearts. Because of this, Martial God didn't even have the strength to resist and was directly suppressed by Jiang Chun. Jinbu Temple. What the hell is that? The 6 realms have been destroyed, and now you're using the forces of the greater thousand world to threaten me. Are you stupid? Jiang Chun said disdainfully. After saying that, Jiang Chun suddenly exerted force in his palm, and Martial God's head instantly exploded. However, Martial God was after all an extraordinary person. He managed to retain a strand of his soul and wanted to escape from Jiang Chun's hands. However, now that things had come to this, how could Jiang Chun let Martial God go? If he let him escape, not only would he offend the Jinbu Temple, but Jiang Chun's identity would also be exposed. At that time, no matter how big the world was, there would be no place for Jiang Chun to stay. Let me go. I'll tell you where the moon goddess is. Just as Jiang Chun imprisoned Martial God's soul, Martial God completely panicked. He spoke hurriedly, his eyes full of fear, but also a trace of hope and pleading. He didn't want to die. It wasn't easy for him to come to the greater thousand world and enter the Jinbu Temple. He originally wanted to achieve meteoric success and achieve great things. The moon goddess? When Jiang Chun heard that, he immediately stopped and said in a low voice, "She. Where is she? She lost her memory and hasn't woken up yet," Martial God said hurriedly, not daring to delay. "Speak. Where is she?" Jiang Chun's eyes flashed coldly, and he didn't hide his murderous intent at all. After all, in his 2 lives, the moon goddess was Jiang Chun's reverse scale. She's in the Jinbu Temple. Back then, when the Guardians opened many passages to the greater thousand world, she also went in, Martial God said. "Let me go. I'll help you take care of her in the Jinbu Temple." How can I believe your words? Jiang Chun said coldly. Back then, when I was Tianchun, I trusted you so much. But what did you give me? Betrayal. It's different this time. I can make a contract with you. If I do anything to hurt you, You can take my life with a single thought. Martial God was anxious. At this moment, he opened up his soul and took the initiative to make a contract with Jiang Chun. As for Jiang Chun, he hesitated for a while and kept silent. After a few breaths, Jiang Chun let out a long sigh and stared at Martial God. He said in a low voice, "Take care of her for me. If she's hurt in the slightest, I'll cut off your flesh and bone. If she's hurt in the slightest, I'll cut off your soul and soul." After that, Jiang Chun raised his hand and made a seal, making a contract with Martial God. At this point, Jiang Chun could decide Martial God's life and death with a single thought. "This time, I won't betray you," Martial God said hurriedly. Sometimes people were like this. In order to survive, they could give up everything. "How's she doing now?" Jiang Chun asked. "She's being valued by the Jinbu Temple," Martial God said, "but she's too naive. She hasn't recovered her memory. If no one helps her, she'll be at a disadvantage in the Jinbu Temple." Jiang Chun snorted and said, "From now on, if she lives, you live. If she dies, you'll wish you were dead." "Yes, yes, yes." Martial God nodded hurriedly. He didn't dare to say no. However, Jiang Chun didn't plan to let Martial God go just like that. After all, when Jiang Chun died, so many Tenshin Shinzo people died. Martial God was also involved. If he didn't kill Martial God today, how could he be worthy of the people who died in Tenshin Shinzo? Those Tenshin Shinzo people who died in your hands, you should think about how you're going to repay them, Jiang Chun said coldly. As soon as he said this, Martial God fell silent. He killed so many Tenshin Shinzo people. How is he going to repay them? For a moment, Martial God didn't know what to say. Boom! Before Martial God could think, thunder and lightning suddenly appeared in the sky of the Dragon Carrier world. Then a blurry shadow appeared in the sky. A hand wrapped in a galaxy seemed to have crossed the river of time and space from billions of miles away. An extremely terrifying aura enveloped the entire Dragon Carrier world. An extraordinary, someone exclaimed when they saw the hand full of galaxies pressing down in the direction of the mountain. Obviously, this extraordinary was here to deal with the Demon Path Emperor. Chapter 11:16. It was impossible to measure the strength of a transcendent. Creatures at that level had heaven-defying methods and indescribable divine abilities. Just like now, this transcendent had struck out from an unknown distance, and even the great Tao was wailing. "The heavens can't destroy me, and the earth can't bury me. Not to mention a transcendent. Even a supreme being can't eliminate me." At this moment, the Demon Path Emperor roared, and the great Tao flower bloomed above his head. In just a few breaths, 2 petals bloomed. Tao gave birth to 1, 1 gave birth to 2, 2 gave birth to 3, and 3 gave birth to all things. This meant transcendence. However, the palm that seemed to have transformed from a river of stars had already arrived. As if the river of stars had collapsed, it covered the entire hanging mountain. Boom! Under the palm, an explosion rang out, as if the world was about to be shattered. However, when the palm print disappeared and all the light faded, everyone saw that the Demon Path Emperor was still there. However, cracks had appeared on his body, and the great Tao flower had been shattered. However, he was recasting it. His demonic blood was boiling, and his Tao fruit was indestructible. Just as he said, the heavens couldn't destroy him, and the earth couldn't bury him. Even a transcendent would find it difficult to kill him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been sealed here back then. He would have been killed directly. A remnant of the ancestral realm. Suddenly, a figure descended from the sky of the Dragon Carrier world. His body was hazy, as if he was in the endless river of time. He was like the brightest star in the world, illuminating the entire Dragon Carrier world. Everyone trembled, not daring to look at him directly. Some had even knelt down to worship him. This is a transcendent. Jiang Chen's body was also trembling. The pressure of a transcendent was not something that ordinary people could withstand. If he hadn't restrained most of his aura, I'm afraid he could have destroyed the entire dragon carrier world just by standing there, the ninth princess said solemnly. A remnant of the ancestral realm? What a joke! When has my ancestral realm ever been destroyed? What remnant of the ancestral realm? The Demon Path Emperor's expression was unfriendly, but his eyes were filled with unwillingness. He knew that with the arrival of the true body of a supernatural being, he would not be able to continue breaking through today, no matter what. I wasn't able to kill you back then, but this time, you won't be able to survive, the extraordinary said. His voice seemed to come from beyond the nine heavens, faintly discernible. At the same time, another palm imprint descended. As if it was a plane, the stars from beyond the heavens were falling and being refined. Together with the palm imprint, they bore down on the Demon Path Emperor. The ancestral realm will not be destroyed. Chapter 11:17. Jiang Qin's current situation was rather awkward. He had pretended to be a member of the Jiang clan, but unfortunately, he had met the prince of the Great Void Race. Jiang Chun felt that his identity would be exposed sooner or later. After all, they were old enemies. Perhaps the other party wouldn't notice if they met once, but if they met multiple times, it would be exposed sooner or later. Moreover, he had the title of Supreme, which would definitely attract the attention of many people. His situation was becoming more and more dangerous, and this Demon Path Emperor had the aura of the ancestral realm on him. It would be very difficult for him to follow Jiang Chun. Kid, I'm following you because you're also from the ancestral realm. Are you still not satisfied? The Demon Path Emperor glared at him and said, I can casually give you some pointers, and your cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds. Senior, my current situation is really awkward, Jiang Chen said with a bitter smile. Then, he told the Demon Path Emperor about his situation. After hearing this, the Demon Path Emperor's expression became strange. Then he gave Jiang Chen a thumbs up and said, You've got guts. You dare to pretend to be a member of the Jiang clan. However, the Demon Path Emperor didn't care at all. He patted Jiang Chen's shoulder and said, Don't worry, my strength will recover after a while. If anything happens, I'll protect you. That'll take a while. The current you, Jiang Chen muttered. He really wanted to tell the other party that with his current cultivation, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat him. Kid, what's wrong with your eyes? Do you think that I'm weak just because my cultivation has fallen to King God? Let me tell you, I'm the Emperor who took those 2 steps. If it wasn't for that old bastard who came and stopped me from breaking through, I would be a transcendent now, the Demon Path Emperor said unhappily. Fine, fine, fine. Whatever you say, you have the final say. Jiang Chun was helpless. He could only let the other party follow him. Of course, Jiang Chun also had his own selfish motives. He wanted to learn more about the ancestral realm from the Demon Path Emperor. Since Jiang Chun had been reincarnated in this life, he had encountered many things along the way. He also had many doubts. Ever since the destruction of the 6 realms, Jiang Chun felt that all the mysteries pointed to the ancestral realm. Perhaps his first life was in the ancestral realm. Senior, how should I address you? Jiang Chun said. Seeing that the old man's body was extremely weak, he couldn't help but rummage through his interspatial ring and take out a few stalks of radiant spirit grass. Smiling, he asked, Senior, do you want some radiant spirit grass? Kid, you're sensible. The demonic path monarch took the spirit grass. He didn't refine it, but directly stuffed it into his mouth. As he chewed, he said, You can just call me Featherfall. Senior Featherfall, what's going on in the ancestral realm? Although I'm from the ancestral realm, I've never been there. Jiang Chen probed. However, Featherfall shook her head and said, When the ancestral realm encountered a great calamity, I fought with someone in the outside world and was then sealed. I'm not very clear about the situation in the ancestral realm, Featherfall said. However, Featherfall told Jiangchun that in the ancestral realm's heyday, it could be said to be a pilgrimage of 10,000 realms. At that time, the ancestral realm was a true king's world. So many worlds in the Great Thousand Realms had to make a pilgrimage to the ancestral realm. At that time, there was a creature in the ancestral realm that was not invincible, but truly invincible. At that time, everything was fine in the ancestral realm. However, for some unknown reason, many worlds in the Great Thousand Realms suddenly joined forces and attacked the ancestral realm. Since then, the ancestral realm had been engulfed in the flames of war. I have a feeling that the Great Thousand Realms didn't attack the ancestral realm because of some invincible Tao art, but because they were instructed by someone. Featherfall frowned and said, "But I don't have any evidence. It's just a feeling." Instructed by someone? It can't be, right? Jiang Chen exclaimed. To be able to command the people of the entire Great Thousand Realms. How strong was that person? Or rather, it was not a person who commanded the Great Thousand Realms, but an organization, a force? However, just as Featherfall had said, he was only guessing. He only felt that the great calamity back then had come too suddenly and was too unusual. Senior, I heard that the ancestral realm was sealed and cursed, Jiangchen said. Then, are there any living creatures in the ancestral realm now? Don't tell me they're all dead? That's impossible. Featherfall immediately denied and said, although the ancestral realm has been destroyed, to be specific, all the cultivators are dead, but the ordinary people are still alive. That's the special rules and order of the ancestral realm, and no one can break it. At this point, Featherfall was also curious and asked, "Are you sure that the ancestral realm is cursed?" "I also heard it from others," Jiangchen said softly. "I want to go to the ancestral realm to take a look." "You?" Featherfall looked at Jiangchen with disdain and said, "You're either a mortal or an emperor. Otherwise, you can't enter the ancestral realm." "This is also the order and rules of the ancestral realm?" Jiangchen asked. "Nonsense," Featherfall said snappily. "In our era, those who were born were emperors, and only emperors could enter the ancestral realm. Of course, there's also a group of people who are born unable to cultivate and are mortals. There are only two kinds of people in the ancestral realm." Jiangchen could not help but gasp when he heard that, and his heart surged. Born as emperors? Does this mean that the cultivators in the ancestral realm back then were all emperors? Then, how many emperors were there? Boy, now you know how powerful the ancestral realm was back then, right? Yuluo raised her eyebrows and patted Jiangchen's shoulder as if she was comforting him. She said, "It's all right. Judging from your talent, you'll become an emperor sooner or later, or even a transcendent like me. When the time comes, you'll have plenty of opportunities to go to the ancestral realm." At this point, Featherfall stretched out her hand and said, "You're too weak. Do you have any more flowers? Give me a few more." Yes. Jiangchen took out a few more spirit herbs and continued to ask, "Senior, do you know that there's a person who might have been reincarnated several times?" Reincarnated several times? Featherfall was stunned for a moment, and then her expression turned serious. She looked at Jiangchen with a strange expression. Featherfall did not expect this before, but after hearing Jiangchen's words, she realized that Jiangchen was very similar to someone. "It can't be, it's really you?" Featherfall cupped Jiangchen's cheeks with both hands and carefully examined them. Then, she separated a strand of divine consciousness, wanting to see through Jiangchen's soul. However, with Featherfall's current cultivation, she could not easily enter Jiangchen's soul world. When a flower withers, another similar one will bloom. "Maybe you're not him, but you look very similar," Featherfall muttered. Then his expression became serious, and he said, "There is indeed such a person. I don't know why, but he was reincarnated several times. However, that person is not from the ancestral realm. His origin is mysterious, but that person did help the ancestral realm a lot." Featherfall said, "I don't know who it is exactly, but that person's appearance really looks like you." Chapter 11:18. Reincarnation existed in the world, but how many people could reincarnate forever? One had to know that the path of reincarnation had been cut off ever since the ancient underworld was destroyed. If one wanted to reincarnate, they could only do so secretly. However, how difficult was it to do so? The ninth princess was one of them. She knew the dangers involved. Her soul could easily be destroyed, and she would be destroyed forever. In that case, if a person continuously reincarnated, and if he had been secretly reincarnating, then it would be somewhat unreasonable. However, there was indeed such a person in history who had been reincarnating continuously. She didn't know what method he used, but he could reincarnate after death every time, and he succeeded every time. Featherfall was also deep in thought. She kept staring at Jiang Chun and had a strange feeling. "Are you a reincarnated stowaway?" Featherfall asked. "You can say so." Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. "But I don't remember the memories of my previous lives." Previous lives? Featherfall narrowed her eyes. The difference between previous lives and previous lives was only one word, but the meaning was very different. "I also heard it from others. I seem to have reincarnated several times." Jiang Chun said, "It's just that I only remember the memories of my previous life. As for the other lives, although I've found my physical body, my memories haven't recovered." Hiss. "It can't be right?" Featherfall sucked in a breath of cold air, her eyes full of horror. She seriously suspected that Jiang Chun was that person. However, Featherfall didn't know much about that person. She had only seen his appearance in paintings. However, Featherfall had lived for so long, and she had heard many rumors. But to be able to reincarnate several times, that person was the only one. "You have to find the ancient underworld," Featherfall said solemnly. "The ancient underworld was destroyed, and there are still remnants left. They might know some secrets." "That's what I was thinking." Jiang Chen nodded. But what made him helpless was that the five seas had disappeared after leaving the six realms. Perhaps the five seas had gone to the ancestral realm, but with the five seas' mysterious way of doing things, it was also possible that they had gone to other places. The great Kiliacosm was so big. Where could Jiang Chun find the five seas? "I know of a place where the remnants of the ancient hell are located. I'll take you there when the time comes." Featherfall said, "That place is very strange. Even emperors don't dare to be presumptuous there. Even extraordinaires have to be careful when they go there." "What? Even extraordinaires had to be careful when they went there? It can't be?" Jiang Chen exclaimed softly. One had to know that in the eyes of the world, extraordinaires were invincible. They were the peak of cultivation. Such a creature, where in the world could he not go? What's more, that place was nothing more than a remnant of the ancient hell. "Let's not talk about this for now. Let's find a place for me to rest," Featherfall said. After eating a few stalks of spirit grass, her face was a little red, but her body was still very weak. Just after this, Jiang Chun stood up and took Yuluo with him. Under the ninth princess's protection, they went back to the Dragon's Soaring Academy. As soon as he returned, Jiang Chun heard the news of the Hanging Mountain being spread everywhere in the academy. Jiang Chun didn't pay any attention to this. Instead, he took Yuluo back to his room quietly. "Huh, it's you." When Featherfall entered Jiang Chun's room, she happened to see Huang Tian leisurely lying on Jiang Chun's bed. When the two saw each other, they were stunned for a moment and almost exclaimed at the same time. "You know each other?" Jiang Chun was a little confused. He secretly wondered what Huang Tian's identity was. In Jiang Chun's impression, Huang Tian was the sky of the six realms. He had always been in the six realms and had never left. In that case, how did he and Featherfall know each other? Could it be that Huang Tian's identity wasn't just limited to this? She had other identities? "I didn't expect you to still be alive." At this moment, Huang Tian got up and looked at Featherfall from head to toe. He teased, "Yo, I haven't seen you for so many years. Has your cultivation dropped?" "Nonsense. I was plotted against when I was just born. Otherwise, I would be an extraordinaire now," Featherfall said unhappily. At the same time, Jiang Chen noticed that when Featherfall looked at Huang Tian, There was a trace of fear in her eyes. This was a little unreasonable. Although Huang Tian was strong, he had not taken that step. Back then, he was even killed by the Pingtian clan. Featherfall, on the other hand, was a true empress. She was even one step away from becoming an extraordinaire. Then, with Featherfall's strength, why would she be afraid of Huang Tian? At this moment, Jiang Chen felt more and more that Huang Tian's identity was not ordinary. It was definitely not as simple as it seemed on the surface. The little brat who followed me back then has grown up now, Huang Tian teased. When these words came out, Featherfall's face turned red. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, "Don't talk about the past. We've all grown up. Why are you still talking about those things?" "What? Senior Featherfall followed you back then?" Jiang Chen exclaimed softly. He looked at the two of them with a strange expression. For a moment, he was a little confused. The ninth princess was the same. She stared blankly at these two big shots. Forget it. It's all in the past anyway. There's nothing left." Huang Tian sighed. There was a trace of disappointment and regret in his eyes, but more than that, there was a kind of loneliness. Perhaps she had experienced some things and lost a lot of people and things. However, Huang Tian would never mention it. She buried her secret in the deepest part of her heart. "I told you that the path you took was wrong. You turned your body into the sky. What happened in the end? You still stayed here and couldn't enter that legendary world." Featherfall said angrily, "For this, you paid too much. You even didn't hesitate to sever your own Dao fruit. Don't you think it's a loss?" "It's not a loss," Huang Tian said softly. "That was my own choice." Featherfall snorted coldly. Then, she sat down on the bed and said, "Brat, give me a few flowers. I need to recover. If there's nothing important, don't disturb me." Bang! However, before Jiang Chen could speak, Huang Tian directly slapped Featherfall off the bed. "This place is mine." Huang Tian raised his eyebrows and pointed to a corner by the wall. "Go over there." I've already taken 2 steps. If no one disturbed me, I would be an extraordinaire right now. Although I used to follow you, it's different now." However, before Featherfall could finish speaking, she saw Huang Tian's beautiful eyes narrow. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing a charming smile. At this moment, Featherfall shrunk her neck. She no longer had the attitude of an expert. She obediently got off the bed. Then, with a trace of grievance, she went to the corner by the wall. "By the way, don't keep calling him Brat. If you know his identity, you can even call him Supreme One," Huang Tian said and pointed at Jiang Chen. Hearing this, Featherfall's expression became serious. She asked softly, "Can't really be that person, right? What do you think?" Huang Tian rolled his eyes and said unhappily, "In this world, how many people can reincarnate and not die like him?" You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.